It was kind of loose. I don't know if it'll be good or not.
That's how we started, saying it's kind of loose.
It's kind of loose, yeah.
Wait, shh, everybody quiet. Shh. Oh.
She was a little loose. All right, while you have that, while you cork pop, you're the bartender tonight.
I definitely will dish up drinks tonight.
Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 164, I think, and we've got the gentleman from Jennings Java here, Daniel Jennings and AJ Kazmierczak.
Great to be back.
Yeah, I was going to say, AJ's been here before.
Glad to be here.
And Daniel has not, so really welcome, Daniel. AJ, thanks for tagging along.
Oh, sure. All right, we're gonna play it like that all night. Okay.
Good to see you. Go ahead and share it while I do the sponsor thing on your guys' stuff.
Cool.
And everyone at home as well. If you guys want to share it if you're watching Facebook Live or YouTube, go ahead and share it. If you guys are listening on the audio, we hope you guys listen, like, subscribe, review, rate, whatever it is, and tell your friends, family about it.
I was just checking the Instagram for Jennings Java.
Right.
Yeah, that's going to be tonight, though. That's how it goes. Yeah.
These guys talk business all the time. So that being said, let's go over a little bit of business for us. Thanks to our sponsors, Tinder Box at Easton. Tonight, Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio is featuring on the show the Micallef Fina. You guys, if you guys listen frequently, you had Jared Saunders on, and he was from Micallef. He was on not too long ago, actually, and we featured some of their cigars when he was here and learned a little bit more about the company and the founder and everything else. So check that episode out if you could. We got the Fina, which is a Brazilian wrapper, and we'll get into that a little bit in part one. So thank you, Tinder Box at Easton. And then also Altadis USA. Thank you, Altadis. We've got, what do I have here? The H. Upman Hispaniola, I believe. Yeah, Hispaniola from Jose Mendez. And this is something that Upman put out as part of their series. You also had a couple others. We have featured the Nicaragua by AJ Fernandez several times as the secondary cigar. And tonight we have the Hispaniola from H. Upman. So thank you all to this USA and Josh Bentley for all the hard work on the sponsorship. We appreciate that. And also BS Cigar Company. The gold and the silver are available at Tinder Box at Easton. So go ahead and grab those. Contact us. We've got some going out in the mail, I think, later this week. And we appreciate all the support for BS Cigar Company and from BS Cigar Company. And also, last but certainly not least, the Patreon page, patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. We had 2 new patrons last week during the episode, and we appreciate that. Clay and thinking who it was. Because Clay was the winner last week of the raffle. Yeah. That's right. No. Forgive me, I forget who the new patrons are off the top of my head. I meant to look that up, but thank you guys very much for the support. We'll give you guys a shout out here going forward. And we do some raffles. We've been doing them every week. Should we do another one? Yeah, sure. Yeah. We're going to do another raffle this week between episode 164, part 1 and part 2. So check that out, guys. It supports us doing this show. And you can do a $5, $10, $25 tier, whatever you want. Or you can just, like I said, at the very least, if you guys tell your friends and family about it, give us a share, a like, a review. And yeah. What's up, guys?
Not much. How's your day?
My day was good. It was good. It was typical Wednesday, actually.
Typical Wednesday for you?
Yeah, Jim in the morning took a walk with the new dog, which is awesome. I mentioned him last week. He's definitely a good pup so far.
I like his energy already in the short time I've met him.
You brought it out of him, surprisingly.
Daniel, what'd you get into today?
Average Wednesday as well. Just roasting coffee pretty much the whole day.
Anybody stop by the shop today?
Busy day for one. Yeah, it was sunny out all day, so we got a good bit of people in.
We're definitely a fair weather shop, that's for sure. It's a lot of walk-ups.
It's a garage. That's what it is. We like our garages.
That's a lot of this type of stuff, really. Because, I mean, the shop's kind of the same way. You know what I mean? The cigar shop.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Less people are out when it's not as nice.
We definitely get our walkers. So anyone with the dogs, stuff like that. Rainy days, we will be lucky if we'll get like 2 to 3 people swinging by the shop. Deliveries go up, which means we have to endure the rain. So,
which means Daniel has to endure the rain because he's the one with the cycling legs.
Yes. And that being said, before we get into this, I do want to, like I said, we introduced Jennings Java. If you guys, this is a great time while people are freshly listening to this episode, give us a little bit about the company.
Yeah.
About your guys' self. I know AJ has gone into it a little bit in the past episodes that he's been on. But if you guys tune in here during this part of it, we'll get into the cigar and the whiskey that we've got featured for part 1, but I do want to get you guys an opportunity to kind of go
quick
over
overview.
Jennings Java. Because again, thank you guys very much for being here.
I was gonna say, you guys have heard me riff about it enough. What's really cool though is to hear it from Daniel's perspective, because honestly, this whole thing so far has been his vision. So
yeah. Well, don't let me talk too long about it. I love talking about the story.
You got it. Okay.
But yeah, basically, developed a palate for good coffee when I got my driver's license in Columbus. Columbus is a killer coffee market, plenty of great roasters, just like the brewery scene as well. And so I started driving around, really developing that taste for good coffee. Then I went away to college. We went to Muskegon University. That's where AJ and I met. I was a soccer player at that time, was being recruited for soccer. Got out to college and ran into this fiasco right away where there was no good coffee.
Timeline wise, this was, you developed your taste from probably 2010 to 2014.
Oh, yeah, I started drinking pretty early on. It was really when I got my driver's license.
Coffee.
Yeah,
there it is.
Who needs to know the other side? I brewed beer out of college too. I'm just saying. We'll talk about the beer another time though. But yeah, so developing that palate for coffee. It was really honestly age 16 because I was finally able to check out the local coffee scene. Trying to get out of my parents' house, do whatever I could just to like check out downtown Columbus, Short North, those coffee shops. Went away to college and had no good coffee. We're out in the middle of nowhere. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of New Concord, Ohio.
Literally a one-stop light town.
I have not.
It's Jack Ohio. Hanna and John Glenn is pretty much what they're known for.
Oh, and all those animals escaping.
And
Zanesville,
like 10 years ago.
Daniel Jennings from Jennings Java.
Eventually, yeah. Not AJ though.
AJ.
I just help.
Yeah, you're.
I'm just.
We'll go into why we didn't try to say Kazmierczak Java. Maybe because I still don't know how to say his last name.
No one knows how to say his last name.
It's whatever you need it to be. You see, Nate's got my back.
He's not on the microphone.
Well, Nate's got my front, I guess.
Well, go on, Daniel.
But yeah, so I was actually studying business with an emphasis on entrepreneurship. So I already had one business that kind of helped lead my way to college. I was doing lawn care. So through high school, kind of learning about how to run a business. I was not passionate about mowing lawns, though. That was literally just a way for me to get some extra income. Yeah. And then in college, my freshman year, I started, two things. I started brewing beer. My family did not like that at all. And now that I'm out of college, I can talk about that. The beer was not good either. I was not naturally good at brewing beer. You need fermentation, temperature control, and stuff like that. And even roasting coffee, it wasn't my best skill set right off the bat. I actually caught the first batch on fire in my parents' kitchen.
That'll get you out of the house.
Yeah, they were not too excited at the start about this business venture that I had. Though, jokes aside, they were super supportive. And my dad kind of helped me with the branding and the startup, looking into what it was like to get an LLC set up. I dropped maybe like $900 down to like buy like my first batch of raw coffee, which if you ever want to have fun, try to figure out where to go to buy raw coffee.
That was very sarcastic, by the way. We still run into
that issue. Lots of just boring details at the start, but that's kind of what I always tell people about starting businesses. There's just a lot of tedious tasks that you kind of have to learn along the way. But so started roasting coffee and started Jennings Java coffee roasters out of that dorm room at Muskegon University. The joke is really for like pretty much, maybe 9 months I did it by myself without any help. And it was like cool. My grandma would buy coffee from me, my aunts and uncles, but it was more like, I was just kind of, exactly. Yeah. So it was kind of cool. I felt cool because I had like a couple followers on my Instagram page at that time. And then I went out to, and this is probably a story everyone else starts to hear, is I went out to this program at Muskegon, an entrepreneurship program called Ignition. And really my skill set is product. I have spent a lot of time learning about coffee and stuff like that. And that's where I met AJ, and AJ was what turned the brand around for us.
You met him in college or at that program?
At the program at college. Yeah, It was at Muskegon University. So I think that was actually going into my sophomore year. So running the business for about 9 months. It was your senior year?
Yes.
For the record, I don't think I've ever told AJ this. I thought he was an arrogant son of a gun when I first met him too.
No need to sell.
Probably, yeah.
I don't think he's being sarcastic there. No, he probably did.
I did not like him the first time. He got up and started speaking, and then he came over to me. He's like, "I believe in you," and I'm like, "Okay."
Well, that was also, this is a very small detail, is that was also because I was at that Ignition program pitching a
What was
it? It was just like a Columbus gas.
Oh, that gas
Columbus
app. Yeah.
gas app, but it was for tobacco. I played baseball. I have family members that chew and stuff like that. And why not come up with an app where you could find the actual cheapest tobacco, not just going to cheap tobacco. But yeah, that obviously fell through, and I'm kind of glad it did.
I thought you were still going to go back to it, actually. Like,
I've still got it in reserve.
But yeah, so that's how I met AJ. And AJ, within a matter of like a week, was already pushing me way outside of my comfort zone, which to have a business partner do that is actually very beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think within about like 3 days, he was over watching me roast. And he's like, we need to get you into events and stuff like that. I'm like, no, I'm pretty happy just sitting in this garage, hoping one day I hit it without
like behind the scenes.
Exactly. Yeah. And still to this day, he still pushes me a good bit outside my comfort zone. I've got a lot more comfortable being kind of one of the faces of our brand, as if you look on our social media, stuff like that, it is literally branded towards the coffee guys.
Absolutely.
I hated that at the start, but we really have a unique thing going there where it honestly feels kind of like a bar stool or something like that, where you're just following two dudes who love coffee. But yeah, and then from there, it kind of just took off. We've had lots of blessings along the way, things I'm sure we'll get into throughout tonight. Just kind of all the different aspects of how it has led to me being able to be full-time and getting AJ on full-time here shortly too.
No, it's amazing. You guys have been in business for how long technically?
5 years, actually just 5 years the other day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. I was supposed to get a tattoo to celebrate actually. So that will be coming.
Still is.
Yeah,
It's still the 5th year. So
yeah,
I was gonna say,
what's the tattoo of AJ's face or
AJ's face on my butt,
yes.
and then
and vice versa.
Yep.
But no,
it's got to be on the butt.
It is kind of funny that actually stuck, is because of the fact that when we
choice words.
It's gonna be a long podcast, isn't it?
I hope not.
But no, when we first started, Daniel was an RA, so he was working.
I wasn't brewing beer as an RA.
No, he was
not at all.
He was working. It was probably midnight, 1 a.m., and we were just riffing back and forth. And I was like, we should get tattoos, like after the 5-year mark, because that's generally when most small businesses fail, is within that 5 years. And I was like, when we hit that 5-year mark, let's get tattoos to celebrate it. Basically, coffee themed. Daniel has a really awesome one set up. You want to talk about it?
Yeah. Sure.
The tattoo?
Yeah, the tattoo. It was supposed to actually be Monday, but unfortunately, the tattoo artist had a medical emergency come up. So rescheduling, obviously, tattoo comes second to those things. But yeah, so I'm actually going to
trust your tattoo artist. So.
Yeah.
Like, let's go to the backup.
Exactly. No, not at all. I already put some money down on that too. So I'm going to wait.
Well, I hope he's all right.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm going to do some coffee vines with the fruit coming out. Our motto as a business is true to the origin. And so it's kind of our take on that, basically reminding me all the time that my job as a roaster is pretty much the middleman. I'm just the head chef for our company. I'm sourcing in awesome products from people who have put in many hours to produce a product. And so it's always reminding me, going back to origin, that my job is to tell this story.
Okay. Know? I love it. You guys get matching tattoos?
Nah.
AJ hasn't decided yet. I think
I've got some ideas and stuff like that.
That's cool. That's cool. You guys are getting matching tattoos.
Actually, it's a matching sleeve because mine's going all the way up my arm, so it's going to be like
we'll just pair mine up with his.
I'm getting a wolf on my stomach tomorrow. Actually,
you're getting a wolf on your stomach?
Is that what you have? Yeah,
right. It's not on my stomach. It's on my rib cage.
Is it a lone wolf? All right, let's get into part one.
Yeah, talk about cigars and whiskey.
Give you guys an opportunity to talk about your business. Now you're talking about tattoos of wolves.
Hey,
one wolf, a lone wolf. Excuse me.
What do you want to talk about first?
If you get one of a wolf, it's not a lone wolf anymore.
It's a pack. It's a wolf pack, like the Hangover.
We've talked about this already.
All right. So do we want to talk about the smoke? Tell us about the smoke.
No, do you know? Did you look this up? The whiskey you're not drinking?
Now, all right, we'll get into that part in
Did
part
you look up
two.
the whiskey?
But no, I
feel
told
like
you I was buying this whiskey.
If you're not drinking the whiskey, you probably want to talk about it before part two.
There was a story behind this, so I'll make it quick for you.
I don't care.
So my fiance and I went down to Pigeon Forge to get engaged, right? She didn't know we were getting engaged. I knew we were getting engaged. Brought the ring and everything. Remembered it. Yeah. We go to eat at this restaurant, and it was the goat it was some animal, but they had Chattanooga. what is it? Cask 111.
Yeah.
And they had it in an old fashioned. And it is in my top 3 old fashions I have ever had. And we actually make a point to never eat at the same place twice when we go on vacation, just because we like to see what the locals are eating and stuff like that. We went back there just so that I could get another old fashioned later on. And it just, I love this whiskey. And then when you had mentioned you had it before, you liked it. And it just so happens I like the transparency on the label. They dive into
the mash bill and everything else here. Yeah.
Yeah. And so while you're looking at that, I can look up the details.
Yeah. You look up the details. I'll talk a little bit about Micallef there. But this is cool because I do want to actually read what's on here as well, because it is very specific indeed. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So the Micallef, like I said, we had Jared on not too long ago. This Micallef Matafina. Matafina is the wrapper. It's Brazilian. I can't say really. I don't know how to pronounce the actual region, but it's the northeastern coast of Brazil is where this wrapper leaf is grown mainly. And then it's Nicaraguan filler and binder. This is kind of different. This is part of what they call the Bold series for Micallef. And they have stuff through another company that's this is going to be kind of on their more budget lines, I guess you could say. So when I say budget lines, you're still at that kind of $9, $10, $11. So it's going to be your average price stuff. And they've actually teamed up with, just for the Bold line, including the Matafina, General Cigars. So that's who actually manufactures this cigar for them with their blend and with their marketing and everything else. And obviously they worked with them blending it, but that's who actually produces this for them. And that is something that keeps the cost down, as opposed to using their other factory where they're going to be utilizing another company for a lot of their higher end stuff, because they do have some higher end stuff. And this is a somewhat newer company, but it is interesting that they actually could do that. I like this strategy on that. So that being said, this is a Bellicoso. It's torpedo. I don't know exactly what they call the actual size, but it is a torpedo, kind of a Bellicoso, and a thicker ring gauge. I want to say it's probably about a 56, 54 ring gauge. Is it on the cellar there?
6 1/4 by 54.
6 1/4 by 54. So, like I said, Matafina, Brazilian wrapper Matafina is typically of darker shade. I don't know what you guys think of this so far, but I do get a little bit of sweetness from it. Just a hint, and that could be also from the Tennessee whiskey.
So I was going to add to it, just in terms of smoothness. Unfortunately, with, like we talked about, life just gets in the way. I actually haven't been able to smoke in quite a while.
Yep.
And as coming back into it with this, I think you could put this in the hand of anyone, and they would be able to smoke it. I like it. It's definitely smooth. You said you got some sweetness to it?
Just a little bit on the finish.
Daniel, what's your thoughts?
Jared says floral. When I was talking to Jared from Micallef, he was saying like a floral, and I kind of get that little bit. I'm not saying sweet as in like sugary by any means, but it's just like the sweetness on the palate. And like I said, it could be the combo right now, because I haven't smoked this cigar in quite some time. I do like the Micallef products though.
There's definitely something how sometimes you can lick your lips after and you'll still get that kind of residual flavor from it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily get that, but there is something on the finish that I can't really pinpoint down, whether it be a sweetness or a floral aspect or things along those lines. It's a note that I don't really recognize. I'm not too familiar with it. What's your thoughts on it, Daniel?
Yeah, I actually, when Steve was talking about the floral aspect, I definitely get a lot of that. A lighter smoke, I didn't see that.
My ass just fell on my lap. Don't worry about that.
So
it's been a while. It's all right, man.
It's okay. But yeah, I would compare this kind of like. Now, I'm obviously everything I'm going to talk about will relate back to coffee, because that's what my comfort zone is. But AJ, think kind of like our early bird or something like that. From the aspect of, you still get that initial like kind of tobacco-y notes to that, but there's something a little bit lighter about it. Now, mind you, I normally go for my heavy cigars right off the start too. So this would be like a nice kind of a good one for weather like today, a summer cigar. I could smoke this out on a boat pretty easily.
Now, see, I just recently actually have heard about people are starting to say that the best pairings are from similar regions. And with this, I could kind of see that, because you said this was Brazil binder.
No, Brazilian wrapper and then
Brazilian
Nicaraguan
wrapper.
filler and binder. Yeah.
And I would pair this with our Brazil coffee, which does have some nutty
Nuttiness,
sweetness, but still a super, super smooth coffee nonetheless.
Yeah.
I think Early Bird, honestly, you could smoke this with just about anything. I think Golden's, some of our darker roasts would definitely overpower it a little bit.
I don't know. I always like to balance out things though. Like I was going to say, kind of like, I don't want to do a light drink with this. You know, I actually enjoy like kind of balancing that out, getting something a little bit heavier, going with a lighter cigar, or vice versa as well.
Yeah.
That's just my take. I don't always try to, sometimes I like that contrast instead, you know? That's just my take though with it.
How much coffee you guys had today? This evening?
None in the evening. No, we switched pretty quickly.
Today, 2 in an energy drink.
An energy drink, AJ? Come on.
Yeah.
Isn't that
You're
like
representing-
sacrilegious? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like you're representing Jennings Java here, you know, right?
I still like energy drinks.
You like the
Okay.
taste of that stuff?
Yeah.
All right. I've had so I start
It
out
tastes
my
like
morning.
pop
Yeah.
now, Daniel.
Yeah, I know. I start off with normally like honestly, I don't drink as much coffee as I used to. I find that when you're working more on the production
Terrible
side,
salespeople.
it's a lot of
Drink as
tasting.
little
Yeah.
of coffee as you need.
Yeah.
But by the way, buy more.
buy more. Interestingly enough, I started bartending in the evenings and now I'm drinking more coffee than I ever used to.
Well, there you go.
It's yeah. So I find when I'm working cafes or when I'm working like the bar or something like that, I'm drinking a lot more. But working on the roaster, it's kind of a hands-on thing. So
Yeah.
it's very difficult sometimes to step aside. I start my morning off with a pour over.
Okay.
I'm always tasting all of our different coffees. It's interesting just from the aspect. There's definitely just like cigars and beer and everything. There's stuff I do not like, but I still have to taste to make sure it's on point. And then I normally end with my dessert coffee, which is going to be like a nitro cold brew. I'm not sure if you guys have tried that before. Very similar, like a Guinness or something like that. It's pulled on nitro gas. And that's a good pick me up like midday around noon, 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
But and we'll talk more about some health things, but I have had a history of migraines, so I have to be very careful with my caffeine intake,
Interesting.
which is very frustrating when you roast coffee for a living. So
Now, kind of the flip side of the coin, and here's your sales pitch for buying our coffee is you can ask
It's your business.
you can ask Daniel though. Generally speaking, if I'm working a day, you know, be it busy Saturday, busy Sunday, whatever, I will generally always have something from us in my hand talking to people, you know, whether it be something super unique and Jolly Rancher raspberry-ish like our Sumatra Trogan, or something smooth and easy to drink like our City Roast. But yeah, and it's natural too. We don't add anything to it.
it's a fermented coffee, actually. So anaerobic fermentation, just like how you would a wine or a beer. Basically, you know how they have those bubblers, making sure no oxygen is introduced. Doing the same thing with the coffee, actually. Coffee comes from the fruit, and so it's getting all these like crazy. You're basically creating these fruity, fermented, winey notes to it.
Yeah.
Because those seeds, which we roast, are basically just saturating, almost like a barrel aged beer or something like that.
Do you guys do like YouTube videos or any like I know you do Instagram, but like talk about this stuff?
I'm working on it.
We
my coaching fees.
Trust me, we need all the help.
We are
because
very interested. It's just right now, it's pretty much AJ and I when we're running around like crazy because
Yeah,
we're
I
so
know,
grateful.
I
I mean, we have like an abundance of support and demand, and so trying to make sure we're taking time for that
It's
too.
fantastic.
But yeah,
That's awesome.
I mean, I would love to get more IGTV videos. I would love to get more Facebook videos, get a YouTube channel started for, you know,
Start your own
Jennings Java.
podcast. It's easy. Anyone can do it. As seen here.
They just give you a microphone. and
Actually,
go.
hey, we just bribe people with coffee, right? Have them help
Bingo.
out. Yeah.
Bingo. Yeah.
Um,
What do you do on Wednesday nights? Oh, I run a podcast. Oh, that's cool. What do you guys do? Drink, smoke,
Drink.
talk. Yeah. Yeah. So what you normally do? Yeah.
yeah,
There's
we just put a camera and
there's a camera in
microphones.
front of it. We don't know if anyone's listening actually, but you know, yeah. This
But-
isn't recorded in weeks. I just set it up so we can do this.
I'm glad the batteries are charged.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, to dive back into kind of the Chattanooga whiskey, there's a couple of key points.
Am I
So
allowed to take a drink of this too. This is like I've been waiting.
Dude, he's
patiently.
on-
I wasn't sure.
Steve's on his third glass.
I am not on my third glass for this. I just had the
It's
banner
gone,
up there
man.
saying, "Please drink responsibly." You say,
yeah, but you live here. You don't have to drive home.
It doesn't matter.
You can stumble to the couch.
I have.
So their story, and I actually really like this. They have a whole timeline on their website. Their story starts 1816. John Ross establishes a trading post, banks of the Tennessee River, what is now the corner of Market Street and Riverfront. Location becomes known as Ross's Landing. More history and stuff like that. Fast forward to August 2017. I encourage you guys to go and look and read into this yourself.
What is their website? ChattanoogaWhiskey.com?
Yep, you got it.
There you go.
Chattanooga Whiskey experimental single batch series launches with batch 1, a Tennessee high malt bourbon, the first aged whiskey released in Chattanooga in 102 years. 100 years. So now people need to go back through and figure out what happened there. But what we're drinking tonight, August 2019, they released Chattanooga 91 and Chattanooga Cask 111. The only Tennessee high malt whiskey are released from the Riverfront Distillery. So they're based on the Riverfront.
Okay.
But to dive into it, we were talking about that I looked this up. And if you actually look into the whiskey itself on their website, they have everything that's on their website on the label. So they are,
as far as the description and everything else.
Yeah, description, what's going on with it. Do you want to talk a little bit about it, or you want me to?
Yeah, no, yeah. I can. So on the label here, and this is 111 proof. This is going to be a single fermentation. Cask 111 is the unfiltered small batch expression of our signature Tennessee high malt recipe, distilled from a single fermentation, each 6 to 10 barrel lot. So there's 6 to 10 barrels in this when they talk about small batch. It has been hand selected to highlight the subtle nuances of this distinctly full-bodied and robust straight bourbon whiskey. We hope you enjoyed as much as we do. Then they have the batch number printed on there and a fermentation number. And again, that's a code there where obviously without looking into what the numbers and letters mean, we don't know what that means, but obviously there's a code there. A lot of distilleries use that kind of stuff, for like rick houses and things like that. Yeast strand, like, I'm thinking like Four Roses, like the month. Yeah.
Month and year that are distilled with the different letters and stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, there's definitely a code there. Mash bill says yellow corn, malted rye, caramel malted barley, and honey malted barley. And then let's see, 53-gallon toasted and charred oak barrels. Filtration none. Bottle occasionally captures barrel sediment. And then age greater than 2 years and batch size 6 to 10 barrels. So distilled, aged, and bottled at Chattanooga whiskey.
So I don't know who all follows what gets medals and stuff like that, but it did win a SIP Awards double gold in 2019 and an international whiskey competition award. I think that's a bronze medal. Yeah, looks like a bronze medal, right? That's bronze. That's gold.
Both goldish on there.
Yeah, we'll go gold. But yeah, like I said, that this whiskey has stuck with me.
Because that old fashioned.
Yeah, old fashioned that I had down in the hills of Tennessee.
That makes sense too to me because I thought you introduced as kind of one of the a very sweet whiskey right off the start, but this definitely would hold itself in a cocktail too. Without being too kind of weak.
Especially with the 111.
Yeah.
Proof, Yeah. No, the first sip or two was definitely it packs a punch, but it does because of that sweetness. It does kind of mellow out on the palate. Yeah,
that first sip, I was like, oh wow, I don't consider that sweet at all. And then as I'm kind of like developing into
the heat kind of goes away a little bit. Your palate kind of got blasted a little bit. I think the cigar actually helps. Honestly, I think when you guys are talking, this is a you didn't say milder, but you said kind of a lighter cigar.
Yeah.
And I don't think that right off the rip when I smoke this by itself, but Nate says medium. I would say that medium strength, but I think it's got a lot of flavor. It has characteristics, I think, of a little bit fuller bodied cigar. That floral notes bring out a little bit lighter notes to it, which you're not going to get all the time from a cigar that I would think a Brazilian wrapper and Nicaraguan filler binder, I think stereotypically will have a little bit of spice. And this doesn't have as much spice as it does like the floral. And I say just a hint of sweetness. But again, that's after drinking this bottle as well. So I'd say we'll get into the ratings as well, but I'd say this definitely pairs fairly well together, bringing them back kind of to the balance points, I think. Nate, Dustin, anyone else think who's drinking the Chattanooga?
I was going to say, I would hope they're all drinking it.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, the up front, the whiskey's pleasant. It's got a nice flavor to it. But that finish, the first couple sips, really kind of stands out. For me, it was kind of a peppermint and ginger type of spice and heat to it.
We need to have you out to the shop to do some cupping with us so that you can pull out some of those notes and some of the coffees.
Gladly. Yeah, I mean, get peppermint, this bright kind of heat, but then also that ginger spice. And it kind of does mellow out a little bit as it goes. As you drink it, the sweetness kind of lingers a little bit more and kind of rounds out the finish.
Yeah.
But the finish is still pretty bold.
It is.
Yeah.
But that's what I said in the beginning, that the sweetness is at that finish, at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I agree completely.
But
Definitely.
I think the finish on this is so strong. I think it kind of overpowers the cigar a little bit because on the retrohale, the cigar, I didn't get any spice on the retro.
I get a little spice on the retro.
So I think the cigar is just a little light for the whiskey.
Which means we probably should have brought the 91 too,
Which
to see which pairs better.
I really enjoyed the 91.
So because I haven't had the 91, last question. Did you like the 91 or the 111 better?
I think the 91 is easier to drink, and like that is one. Like the 111 would be fine as a nightcap, your last drink of the night. You wouldn't want to drink it earlier just because it might the finish
like we're doing right now.
Yeah, the finish might linger too long and kind of ruin your palate for some of the other whiskeys if you were having more after this. But the 91 definitely is a good entry point and has a little bit more sweetness and nuttiness to it. So that way, if you wanted to, you could build, and I think it would go with more cigars than what the 111 would.
Fair. I like that.
Dustin's here as well. So, Dustin, what do you got?
I am. So to Nate's point, I get a lot of that kind of like minty spice on it, but I get a ton of like a caramel praline sweetness from it as well.
God, I love these guys. We should have them to the shop.
Yeah.
Remember we did a cupping?
I was looking back at the pictures
Can you guys
just the
explain
other
what
day.
a cupping is for those that
Yeah.
you guys
Pretty much like when AJ and I get in bed and
you're
spoon
at a
together.
shop.
No.
Cupping is like, like a massage thing right
Yeah.
now. And other things you can cup. I just want, like, for anyone.
Coffee.
We'll be doing like a market or something and like have someone who has no idea what we're talking about when they're cupping. And then AJ will say, my partner Daniel. I'm like, first off, business partner. Second off, coffee cupping. Now let's get that taken care of. A coffee cupping is going to be basically your what roasters will use to get the full flavor of the coffee. The reason is the coffees are directly saturating in the cup at around 207 degrees.
Okay.
You're brewing your coffee. It's just a brewing method like a French press or pour over or anything like that. There's many different ways to brew coffee. Saturation is one of the original ways. You're basically, think French press, right? You just literally set the coffee in there with hot water and it does its work. So with a cupping, basically, you don't want to be chewing on your coffee, but you don't want to remove any of those grounds because that's how you get all the aroma to it. Whereas with a paper filter, percolation, that filter is actually going to create a very clean cup of coffee, but naturally the paper is taking away lots of those great oils that are going to give all the aroma to the coffee. Okay. So we pretty much steep the coffee for 4 minutes, and then we're going to take a spoon to break that crust because the coffee will sit on the top. And then once you break that crust, you're basically taking a spoon and just tapping those coffee grounds. Those are all will actually settle to the bottom of the cup. And so as you're nosing it and kind of pulling in that aroma, you're able to get all the oils that you'd miss from your normal drip coffee, your batch brew or anything like that. So it's just a way for roasters to really make sure we're pulling all the unique flavors and what the coffee's telling us.
It's exactly what I thought it was.
Are you
spot on?
Are you starting to see why I started doing business with him?
Yeah. Yeah. He knows more than you.
Absolutely.
Knows more than most people in the industry.
You got it. But just because I always like to play this game anytime I come on.
So Dustin.
Wait, what? Oh,
yeah, we totally interrupted Dustin.
Let's get to the game after this.
We're good.
I interrupted because of cupping thing.
Yeah.
No,
trying to give
it's perfectly fine. Like I said, I just you get a ton of sweetness from it. Now, I'm not smoking the same cigar as you guys. I've got a Monte Cristo White series, so it's much milder, creamier cigar. So I get a lot more sweetness out of it because I think they complement each other really well. And the finish for me, it just lingers in your mouth and across your whole palate, but it's not something that's going to be overpowering. And I'm also one who likes cask strength, higher proof stuff. So I would probably lean more towards the 111 versus the 91, which I've not had the 91, but just based on my experiences, that's probably what I would tend to lean towards.
Nice.
Awesome. Well said.
I don't know what it is. I'm yawning here, and I'm like the topic for part 2 is steak.
I was gonna say, I know we're boring you. I'm sorry.
Not at all. Not at all.
He's just pissed that we didn't bring any coffee for him to keep.
I'm
him
mad
awake,
we didn't bring any coffee. I
I've
didn't
got
even
some
think
inside, but it's not like I don't have a fan. Well, I had the French press thing that Nate and Jess gave me.
Maybe it's time to bring out a coffee cupping.
No, I actually stopped by one of my other clients and was looking to see if they had any Terra Java, and we could have done a sidebar rating comparison of the coffee Baltic Porter that has Jennings Java coffee in it. But
oh, nice. Could
it's
use some.
I was gonna say it's out in the market, and you're gonna have to go find it.
It's not here right now. Let's go.
So the game,
The game.
How
The
much are
game.
you paying for this whiskey?
Nothing, because you brought it. It was great. It was gifts are very nice and free.
That's coming home with me though.
Sure.
That way I can get Ellie excited about the fact that I bought more bourbon.
Okay.
But it's under the veil of it's
Okay.
from our engagement.
Where are we cutting the bottle off then?
We can cut it off with 2 ounces left. I just want to, I can go buy more.
All right. So the game of price. You said.
The game of price. Daniel, how much are you paying for this?
40 probably. It's interesting. Now, mind you, I never spend more than 50 on a bottle of whiskey yet either, because I'm still developing.
I was
going
gonna
to
say you're still new.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of the things is I don't
slippery
see
slope, man.
Yeah,
Very slippery slope.
Also, right now, I don't have to spend too much money. I bartend, so I'm developing my palate through
Nice.
all the bar I'm
Through
at right now.
drinking
Yeah,
on
I was
the
just
job.
drinking on the job. No, not never.
No, it's just
never,
before
never.
work.
Before work,
Yeah,
yeah.
you have to
Getting that buzz so you can get through
you're
the rush,
serving,
yeah.
So you do a little pregame, like.
No, but this
Where are
is
you working again?
I forget. No, it's a bar down in German Village, Marion Village area. It was actually awesome. AJ and I loved this bar because it's a whiskey bar in the middle of the neighborhood.
Yeah, what's it called?
Mid City Garage.
Okay.
Yeah. Local cantina owned, actually. So local cantina is owned by a guy named George and Frankie, and they're awesome. And one of the things interesting about those guys is they are both whiskey lovers. So they compared to like your who's their competitor? It's going to be local cantina's main competitor.
Probably Cameron Mitchell.
No, I'm thinking that Mexican restaurant, Condados.
Yeah, Condados.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the interesting thing is you're getting tacos and a bunch of whiskeys out of their shops. But so AJ and I used to hang out there all the time. And Rob, the bar manager, was super awesome, giving me tasters all the time and really developing my palate. I mean, within the last year, I couldn't have even told you what the difference was between wheated bourbon, rye. So I really was a newbie when it was coming to the whiskeys, and I've just been loving it. I actually am excited that there's so much still for me to learn, because coffee, not that it's boring by any means to me anymore, but you get to a point where you are in the industry. It's a job, and so whiskey is kind of a love for me now, where it's like there's so much I can listen to and develop, and so like even this one I saw, it's I think 75% corn. I thought it was going to be a lot sweeter than it was, and it's probably the fact that the proof is a little bit higher for someone who's newer to the whiskey, but I was getting actually lots of that kind of spiciness off the bat too right away. And I was
So you said 40.
Yeah,
you still
40,
didn't get the price.
I didn't. I'd say, I don't know. So it's cask strength, Tennessee, 65.
You guys were right around it. It was $44.99.
That's a great deal.
Thanks
in my
to
opinion.
OHLQ. But yeah,
I think that's a good price for a bottle
Yeah.
like this. 91's $10 cheaper, Nate says.
Nice. So
Nice.
so for a little over what your estimated price was, you can get both bottles.
Where'd you pick it up, AJ?
Yeah.
Math.
Math's good. Math's good.
Where did I get this one at? Giant Eagle, Kingsdale, Market District.
Okay.
But yeah, do we want to talk about just I'm marketing.
Get after it,
Yeah. So I want to dive into the marketing of the cigar wrapper itself, because I like, and maybe it's just the lighting, but I can't tell. Is that a straight gray or is there some green in that? I know on the bottom
It's green, yeah. So
I see
green, yeah.
with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, but the gold finish on it doesn't. It
It's a
doesn't
shiny
look like
gold.
a regular gold. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a shiny gold
Yeah.
for sure. The gold leaf is very shiny.
I definitely think that like if you're walking through and you're actually browsing, this would stand out if it catches the right light. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like it. There's not too awful much going on with it. I would be super interested to see. There's actually designs on the side of the main logo. So like these little guys here.
The coins.
I'd be real interested to know what if those have meaning and what they are.
So on the band, the primary band, and I think that's going to be on most of these, especially the Grande Bold line. That is Al Micallef's coat of arms or whatever. That's the family crest coat of arms. And then I don't know about the coins on the side. Coins used sometimes. It looks like there's even a clover in one. So there can be significance. There usually is some sort of a story. Like for example, on the BS bands, we just use Liberty coins.
Yeah.
Just because, US and all that stuff. We don't really have any of the history there. So, but that's historically something that has always been used on a lot of the Cuban and beyond.
Okay.
As far as that goes, they use that to signify certain things. So it's very classic design. But yeah, that's what you've got in the middle of it is that like coat of arms there.
Yeah.
From Micallef.
I mean, Daniel, do you have anything to add to it with the band?
No, that's actually, I was going to say, that's definitely your strong suit. The branding behind it. I'm always taste first,
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have even stopped because that's just not how I am. I don't get sold that easily besides the packaging,
I get sold very easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is good. I was going to say it's something, it's an art in itself that I sometimes overlook, so.
All right. Let's, and we can incorporate that discussion on the chat. I love the look of the Chattanooga whiskey also.
Yeah.
The branding on that is fantastic. Not only what we said, like the full disclosure, if you will, as far as the information on there, but you've got really bold into the glass. It's kind of embossed or whatever. It's raised as made in Chattanooga whiskey on the bottom. So they're not hiding that at all. Very basic cork on there as well. But on the top of that, you've got Chattanooga Whiskey Company as well.
And there's actually some images on it too. On the sides.
Yeah, on the
right
sides.
there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I assume that's the region.
Probably the riverfront or
Yeah,
the
that's
banks of
region
the
there.
river.
Yeah.
And honestly, like Steve said too, one of the things that ticks me off the most is when you're at a store and you have to look stuff up just to find out all the information on the taste and stuff like that, what the mash is on it. And so that was actually, as we were driving over here, AJ and I was happy that I didn't have to pull out my phone to look up all the information on it
it's
right
nice.
off the back. Yeah.
It's nice. And it's not this, like, there's a little bit of a story, but it's not this whole like majestic thing. When you look it up, you're like, that's kind of complete bullshit. You know what I mean? It's actually like real stuff here. So I do like that. This is the type of part one where we're gonna do the rating. Okay, so it's out of 10, you do the whiskey. Out of 10, you do the cigar, and then out of 10, you do the pairing. So
okay. I like that. That's a new addition since the last time I was
I don't
on.
remember when you were on. Who else said
Dude,
that?
it was July.
Ooh. Well, yeah, that was remote, right?
Yeah.
That was remote. That was when we were still doing it all remote.
But awesome, Daniel. You want to go
Daniel,
first?
go first as your first time here.
Are we starting with the whiskey or the cigar?
Whiskey, then cigar, then the pairing.
Yeah. The whiskey I love. I like the harshness right off the start. I like that it still has a full flavor to it.
Yeah.
I think Dustin Nate, you were talking about the ginger to it. That's all I got right off the start. I still get lots of that. I like my rise a lot, and it was kind of similar to that, and then some of the spiciness I got to it.
There's a little bit of the heat, I think.
Yeah. I would probably give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
I enjoyed it.
Rookie score, round number.
Yeah.
Rookie score.
Just let him rate.
I'm also the optimistic. Be happy I didn't come out and say 10 out of 10 right off the bat. This is the best thing I've ever tasted.
All right. How about the cigar?
He's taking a little drag.
Yep.
Yeah. For the play-by-play there.
Yeah, I enjoyed the cigar. I might go a little bit lower on the cigar. Now, mind you, I like my heavier cigars. I like a full-bodied cigar. So the fact that it was a little bit lighter, my palate also is not as good dissecting something that's on the lighter side as well. So I'd probably give this. You want me to go with the 7.5?
No,
AJ?
do it. Do it.
Whatever you want.
7 and 7. Yeah, no.
Don't be
Yeah, no,
peer
honestly, I
pressured on
probably,
ratings ever.
You see, AJ always he makes me feel that way though. No, probably I would give that cigar a 7. It's still definitely an awesome smoke. The only thing I would say is my palate just prefers something a little bit different.
Okay.
Fair.
And then the pairing out of 10.
I thought the pairing was excellent. Yeah.
Okay.
I think
So you had an 8, 7
yeah.
and a half.
Pairing wise, 8 again.
Okay.
So you would say that the whiskey enhances the cigar a little bit.
Definitely. I'm not sure you didn't try the whiskey, AJ, but I thought it was different enough. That's what I was looking for with a pairing.
Yeah.
Not something that's going to match it right off the bat, if that makes sense. I'm happy I started with the cigar too. I probably if I started with that whiskey, I probably wouldn't have got much of the flavor of that cigar.
Interesting. All right, so AJ's not drinking,
and we'll get into that.
We'll get into that in part 2. Why currently he's not. He does drink, but just not currently for a period of time.
Things Jennings Java does
sometimes heavily.
Sometimes heavily. Been there for that. And vice versa. So for you, 10 out of 10, or out of 10 for the cigar.
So I can at least go with just purely based off memory and how it was in the 2 old fashions.
You've already raved about it a little bit. Yeah.
I would probably go like 7, 8 on the old fashioned. I thought the old fashioned was great.
Yeah.
I can't stress enough that if you do buy a bottle of this, make 1 old fashioned with it.
Okay.
Because it was so good. Or
if you see it at a bar, where were you at?
Yeah, Mid City Garage down in German Village area.
Mid City Garage. Check out Daniel. What nights do you work down there?
I'm there normally Wednesday through Saturday nights. So I took the night off. Enjoy the smoke tonight. So yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're in the Columbus area, check it out. He'll make you an old fashioned. You guys have this or no?
We do not have that one right now, but we have plenty of selections. I was going to say we're always looking to source different whiskeys, and the cool thing about that bar is pretty much, besides your standards, your makers, Four Roses, stuff like that, we're swapping out spirits left and right.
Yeah, growing the selection.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's excellent. But if you do have a bar that you like and then you see this up there, or you're traveling or whatever, you see the Chattanooga whiskey, especially this cask strength that AJ was able to have an old fashioned when he was down in
Pigeon Forge.
Great area. See if they can make an old fashioned, switch it up a little bit. They might even look at you like, wait, what do you want in that? You know what I mean? Because they don't, I doubt this is
standard or let's put it this way, it's the only time I've ever seen it on an actual menu that they're it's whatever old fashioned.
So
right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean it's a good whiskey. I like it. In terms of the cigar itself, which again, kind of sidebar, I know I'm famous for them. You know how we talk about how cigars develop as you smoke them.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot more on the finish as I'm getting deeper into the cigar. Yeah. Like if, you hold it a little bit, you exhale, and then you kind of just like play with it. There's still some residual flavor there. And I actually like that residual flavor. It's not bad by any means. The cigar itself, I'll go a little lower. I'll go 7.4 on the cigar. We didn't talk price. How much price wise?
On our shelf, so we're in Columbus, Ohio, Tinder Box at Easton, who's providing this cigar tonight. You've got $10.50.
$10.50?
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely worth it to try at least once.
Okay.
Like I said at the beginning, for those of you that may have missed it, I haven't smoked in a while. I think this is a cigar that you can hand to anyone that comes in, and I think they will find it pleasant. You know, I don't necessarily know that it'll be anybody's absolute all-time favorite cigar ever. And if it is, awesome for them. I think it's a good smoke. I think at $10.50 a stick, I probably will also buy another one, and go smoke and sit on Fido's porch.
There you go.
But yeah, and then obviously I can't pair. I'll give my delayed ratings in May 7th.
May 7th. And we'll find out more about that, like I said, when we get into the stay caffeinated portion of it. For me, so the whiskey, again, I always bring in price. I'm glad we talked about that prior to it. So we're at $45 here in Ohio, correct?
Yes.
$45, you get 111 proof Tennessee whiskey, small batch. I like the flavors. I think this is, it's not, I don't know. Sometimes when you get like a Tennessee whiskey, it throws me off in what I expect. I also think that, obviously it's said at least 2 years, greater than 2 years. But they're doing the 53-gallon barrels. They're doing things that it sounds like traditionally So that's why I'm not getting any of that real like harshness. It's not like this Tennessee, it's not like this corn water that I get sometimes from something that I would imagine with, you said it's 75%, Daniel, when you looked it up.
Yeah, 75%.
Yeah, I think this is more balanced than what I would think based off of that. And they have this, what they call, what is it? The malted rye, the caramel malted barley, and then the honey malted barley. So I think it's a great recipe. I think they've done great things with this. I'm in the 8 to 9 for the price. Again, I mean, this is something, but again, it's something that you want to try. It's not necessarily my go-to every day, but I will say that, so Shannon Chapman, who's been on the podcast, he brought this over when we had a cookout, I think it was, over at my place. We kicked off patio season. He brought this over. It was a gift from one of his, if it was the exact same bottle, I think it was. He brought it over to the patio, and I was really pleasantly surprised. So I 8.5.
So okay,
so yeah, I'll give 8.5.
And so,
which is what Dustin actually gave it as well.
And so
put that on the comment feed.
To add with that, basically what you guys and I guess what all of us are saying is, if you have this stigma, this idea that Tennessee whiskey leaves a lot to be desired, go with the Chattanooga whiskey 91 or 111.
Well, for this, for the intent and purpose of tonight's podcast,
go with the 111.
Yeah, the cask strength. Yeah.
And give it a try. It's definitely worth having in your bar. I will probably
at least try it out. Yeah.
I mean, excuse me, I'll probably always have one in my bar. One for this, but two for the sentimental significance. Yeah.
All right. So the cigar, I'm going to give an 8. I think for the price point, I think this is a good cigar. I will disagree with kind of the common theme of what everyone else is saying, how it's being overpowered by this whiskey. I think that the whiskey is stronger in a sense as far as flavor and strength with people's palates, which I think everyone's saying, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to just knock your socks off or kill your palate. This cigar, I think, has, again, given an 8. I think it's a good cigar. I think it's good flavor. I like the floral notes that we talked about, but where I really think, and I saw Nate's ratings on here, and I'll tell you what it is. He says 8, 7, 6. I assume 6 is for the pairing. I disagree with that. I think it actually it makes this cigar better. I think so I think that the whiskey brings out more of the cigar, where everyone's saying it's kind of getting diluted or kind of watered down, as far as because the whiskey has such a strong flavor and a little bit of heat that it's getting rid of it. I think this cigar actually smooths out a little bit more than when I normally smoke it without this whiskey.
So you're kind of in the same boat with Daniel then, that the whiskey enhances this cigar.
Well, I think it balances what he said.
Yeah.
So
okay,
I'm with him on that. It doesn't necessarily bring out more, I don't think, but that's where I'm getting the sweetness. But again, it might be from the glass. So I'd give the pairing an 8.5.
And what all of this goes to show is that there is no right or wrong. There's just different taste buds.
Right. Absolutely.
No, I think this is has been a great intro into the evening.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So with that being said, I do want to thank our sponsors for part 1. And if you guys are listening live, or if you're watching the video right now, after the fact, we're going to do a drawing here for the patreon.com. We'll pick a prize. We'll do that during the intermission. And then we will also, let's pull that up there. We'll announce it at the beginning of part 2. So I want to thank all you guys on patreon.com/bourbonbs podcast. Like I said, last week we had 2 new patrons, and it's a fantastic thing. I had another meeting with our new t-shirt guy. So hopefully we'll be able to get those going in the next couple months, and get some new colors of what I've got on. It's the pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together. I wear that in the shop a lot, and a lot of people are asking about it. So I tell them about the podcast and everything else. So hopefully you guys are doing the same that have the t-shirts.
And as I'm rubbing Steve, it's really good quality t-shirts.
It's a tri-blend. Yeah, stop rubbing me. Should have just told you that there's rayon in it. Jesus. All right. So patreon.com/bourbonbs podcast. If you want to do that, you can do a one-time contribution, or you can sign up for a monthly. We appreciate all the support. Check out Jennings Java as well. We'll post all that, or actually you guys post that on the Bourbon and BS community page, which is on Facebook. We've
I'll
got
take care
about
of that.
1,400 plus members. Hopefully we'll get to 15 and 2,000 going forward. Guys, share it. Invite people to that as well. And then Tinder Box at Easton, thank you for the Micallef Fina. That's a fantastic cigar. We enjoyed it. We have the ratings here, so that's great. And then also Altadis USA, we've got the Hispaniola from H. Upman coming up next on part 2. That's our second featured cigar from them, and they are a annual sponsor. So thank you, Josh Bentley, for all the hard work getting that lined up. Also, VS Cigar Company, clearly one of my favorites, both the gold and the silver.
The gold still holds a special place.
Gold's definitely the top seller. So thank you, VS Cigar Company, for the support as well. And then with that being said, stay tuned for part 2 if you're listening live or you're watching the video on YouTube or on Facebook. And also, if you are listening to it on the audio on your favorite podcast app, check out 164.2. Happy Whiskey Wednesday, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Thank you guys, Jennings Java, Daniel, and AJ for being here. Looking forward to it.
Greatly appreciate it.
All right.
Oh,
What are we raffling off here?
Did you want to do this Warhawk lighter by itself or with the closed back cutter to do them separate? Or?
No, yeah, let's do them together. That way I can just keep pumping Altadis and people for more stuff.
it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I also just like the name Warhawk Lighter.
The Henry Clay Warhawk.
Ooh, very nice.
So
Warhawk 9000.
That's
Right.
that's more that alcoholiness that I'm getting instead of that spiciness. Would that be?
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
so, that with it being a cask strength and having that kind of burn heat
Yeah.
to it. If you want to get real accustomed to it, just go see Dustin's personal bar.
But that's interesting because I've had like I was gonna say I have had some even like a little bit higher proof that might be a little bit sweeter to it too. So I wasn't sure if that's yeah.
I would, Dustin, and maybe you know this off the top of your head, maybe you don't, but what is the sweetest barrel proof or cask strength that you've had? Sweetest. Maker's Mark?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Those wheated bourbons normally, yeah.
Especially them, they use the red wheat.
Yeah.
Red wheat.
Yeah.
It's got a much sweeter note.
Nice.
You don't have the rice spice to back it up.
They can't hear you on the mic, but that's
Oh, okay.
That's,
I wasn't sure if
yeah.
I could or not.
no. You got to pick up the mic. All right. So what do we have here? We got. Let's
So
see.
we got the Warhawk lighter.
Show them
Oh, that thing was so cool.
up. There you go.
Triple torch. And it also has a extended punch cutter on the bottom.
Yep.
Ooh, very nice.
And then got the closed back
Oh,
Julieta light or cutter with the white and red. So you just push down on the button.
I
Snap.
want one of those.
Well, you should be a
Closed
patron.
backs, that way you can't,
I should be patient. That's fair.
you can't overcut the cigar with that.
Yeah, it's got the close back. All
me
right.
see
So Dustin, if you would, 1 out of 21. You don't need the mic on this one. Just tell me the number 1 out of 21. Get creative with the number here. Where are we at? 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. David Gordon. He has been a patron for 7 months.
Yeah.
He's at the $10 a month tier. So David Gordon, we'll look you up here. I got contact information. I've got your email address. So we're going to get your address, see if you're local or not, but we'll get that out. I still have Sean Hurley's in the garage. I have not sent that out yet. So I got to get Sean's out there as well. Be going to the post office probably later this week or early next week and get those out to you guys. So thank you very much to David Gordon and all you guys out there. So sign up if you guys haven't already. If you want to contribute to the show, help us keep this going. If you enjoy it, again, share, like it, and all that stuff. But if you want to throw a couple bucks, like I said, even $1 or $2, every little bit helps us get whiskey, keep this going. As soon as when the mixer board breaks, all that stuff,
It just helps having a nice little reserve.
It
for
does.
that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Daniel, welcome.
This is the show.
This is it. Yeah, I love it.
Next, I am so freaking happy that we've finally gotten him on here.
Here we go.
What's the
I got
old
it.
Heath Ledger Joker? Here we
Well, that
go.
was
Hey,
nice.
Dave,
I was gonna say.
Dave Gordon's listening. He says not local. Thanks, Dave.
Appreciate it.
Ask Dave where he's at.
Dave, where you at? I'm gonna ask you instead of typing it to you. Bring that back. There we go. There we go. Dave, answer me. So what do you think about the show so far, man?
I love it. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. There is a delay.
I like kind of being in the industry where I'm still kind of learning a lot about too. So just to sometimes sit back as you guys are dissecting all this stuff, you know?
Yeah.
As I was saying earlier, just the aspect of Garrettsville. That's a
Perfect.
far enough away still though. Yeah. Yeah.
True.
Exactly. You don't want to drive that out there?
We do deliveries all the time.
Sounds like probably by our college or something like that, to be honest. Yeah.
It's over, and I could be completely wrong, but it sounds like it's past the cornfield. But if you get to the woods, you're too far.
When we were in college, mainly the football players, I'm not stereotyping here, but mainly the football players would tell us Byesville. What other towns would we hear? Like all these random, and I never knew where they were talking about. I thought they were like somewhere far away. And they're like, oh no, that's just south of Zanesville. But there's like 50 places south of Zanesville. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or a stop sign.
But they produce a lot of athletes. Yeah. I think
Well,
that's all they had
hey.
to do, that and drink. So
Big shout out to my high school. That's because they're all corn fed, bub.
I've been a city boy my whole life. So
But no, yeah, Daniel, to your point, the craft, and maybe this is why I attach to it, is the craft industry as a whole is such a rabbit hole of knowledge. Like you can sit on the crust of bourbon or whiskey and have your Jack Daniels and your Jim Beam and be perfectly fine. And same thing with coffee. You can enjoy your Folgers and Maxwell House and Starbucks and be perfectly fine. But as soon as you start to dive into that, and same thing with cigars, as soon as you start to dive into that, you open up an entirely new world. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like this stuff so much, is because I know for a fact there will never be a day that I know everything about whiskey or cigars or coffee or anything like that.
I think too, it's been fun for me, especially in the cigar tobacco industry, to come into the box and talk with the guys about where it was sourced from, stuff like that. Cause I find that overlap right away too.
Oh yeah.
Lots of these
Very
origins
related.
are going to be the same exact origins that I'm sourcing coffee from, but to have that fresh perspective of, oh, that's the taste profile I'm supposed to get from that. Or with cigars, do they have that taster wheel as well, AJ?
So-
or
Oh, that's
There
a
is.
good
Yeah,
question.
there is. Yeah.
That's a Steve question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is, because again, I mean, it's one of those things you have to actually read enough reviews or actually kind of study, because in my opinion, most people don't know what grass tastes like other than rolling in it. You know, they don't know what earth tastes like. They don't know what leather tastes like. They, you know, barnyard is a kind of a aroma, or sometimes used as a flavor. So those are the things that I think it's a common agreed upon type term.
Well, Steve, I
gets
don't know if you remember one time I came in and it was so comical of me to even say this. Common term that we'll use for our Sumatran coffees is earthy, tobacco-like. And you just kind of laughed the second I labeled a coffee as tobacco-like, just because obviously there's so much more to each one of those industries. When I'm talking about like a coffee, there's coffee that is very similar to like a red wine, but then you go to a connoisseur of wine and they're like, what are you talking about red wine? There's so much to this, you know? And
same thing when someone says, I want some like coffee notes.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you
And
would-
I go,
you would be the same
okay,
way,
yeah.
like, what kind of coffee?
Yep.
You dive down into it. So
Also, I really like Ian Anderson's note where he said, hell, if you know everything about it, it's no longer fun, which that definitely plays a huge factor into it.
yeah, unless you like feeling better than everyone else. What's that?
True. We getting ready to start part 2? I'm going to
Yeah.
share it again.
Sure, go ahead and
Cool.
share it.
I'm-
Anyone need to use the restroom?
gonna
I just
share
use
it
the outhouse.
Just go in my pants.
Perfect.
Let me get another pour of that.
Like
Too. How much are you trying to save?
grandmother's
Like I
shirt.
said, as long as I have 2 ounces left, I'm happy.
Mm.
Whiskey's meant to be drank,
You
not.
brought
I think that
another
was a
one too,
Jake
right, AJ?
comment, wasn't it? Whiskey's meant to be drank, not looked at. Something
Sounds
along
like
those
what he'd
lines.
say late in the evening.
You have early times also, is that right?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say whenever we cap this off, I have a bottle of early times we can just kill.
Cap it off.
Maybe.
What's that?
I was gonna say I'm sure the Peanut Gallery has more than one bottle at their disposal.
There you go. There you go.
I just got this.
Of course you do. You've been watching too much Bill Bender. Really? Dude, he is like all about, I think it's JTS Brown. And the fact that like Cask Cartel got a found what?
I'm not in.
Oh. Cask Cartel, I guess, got wind of what Bill Bender loved it, and they tried to sell, I think it was JTS Brown, for like $250 for a
Show off
liter.
over here. No one likes to show off, Dustin.
Oh,
That's actually what I was
Dustin.
That's what I was
Oh,
grabbing
that's
your
what you're
attention
nudging
for.
me
Yeah,
on.
I was
Look
like,
at-
I didn't
look-
mean to grab your attention,
like,
but he's just flexing on us
Now
over
I
here.
know
Yeah.
why you
You
say
gotta
money
eat
with him.
small batch.
I'll come on every
That's
week
good.
if you guys want me to.
He's got small
You're welcome in the
batch.
garage. You got to make money, man.
Yeah.
I was gonna say we'll come visit you, but it can't be on a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into this here.
Awesome. I'm sharing right now.
Get after it.
Part 2.
You
What
don't
one
have
was
to-
stay caffeinated?
Stay caffeinated. Yeah. Yeah.
You said I don't need to talk into the mic?
You don't need to talk out
Oh,
loud
alright.
while you're thinking, unless it helps you. I think it helps you. Go ahead, go ahead.
It does
I'm
actually.
just trying-
Thank you.
Trying to start
I
this.
actually don't like
Yeah,
talking
start.
myself, so I just got AJ here to talk for me.
Just start.
You sure?
Yes, send it.
Are you comfortable?
No.
Rarely. Welcome back to the Bourbon BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 164, part 2. I've still got the gentleman from Jennings Java. Actually, Daniel and AJ. We'll just take away gentlemen here.
The coffee guys.
The coffee.
The coffee
guys. That
guys, yeah, the
is-
coffee
that's-
dudes, yeah.
The coffee dudes or guys?
Guys.
Whatever, guys,
Coffee
whatever,
fellas.
yeah.
We literally sign our love notes to our orders with the
Love
coffee
notes,
guys.
that's what
And
they
stay
are.
caffeinated, actually. The
Really?
closing is
Yeah, that's
stay
a closing every
caffeinated,
time.
the
Stay
coffee
caffeinated.
guys.
Wow. How about that?
Yeah.
Great minds think alike. We are in part 2. I am still smoking the Micallef Fina. There is a parallel. The reason I picked that cigar is because we haven't done it yet, first of all, and second, because I know you guys do some Brazilian coffee as well. So
Yes.
that's kind of a little bit of a parallel. We talked about that in the intermission. Also in the intermission, we did do another raffle for patreon.com/bourbonbs podcast. We've got several patrons. We appreciate your guys' support. It was, where's he at? Dave Gordon. He is in Garrettsville, Ohio. So he's not local, but he is in Ohio. So thank you, Dave, for 7 months of support. Hopefully you continue doing that. Share it. Tell other people to do so. Really helps us keep doing this and hopefully make it better and better, and give us motivation to not go see Daniel on a Wednesday night and do this instead. Sorry. But if you're not listening, or if you want to listen at the bar in your headphones, go to his bar while he's bartending.
We don't need to pump up that bar too much. Just pump up Jennings Java. That's
Jennings
all I
Java.
need.
Jennings Java. All right. Yep.
Every-
While you're drinking coffee,
Yeah.
There you go.
24 hours a day, stay caffeinated. Now, also, I want to thank Tinder Box at Easton, and that's Columbus, Ohio. Thank you to Altadis USA, makers of Romeo Julieta, Monte Cristo, H. Upman, we have an H. Upman Hispaniola. You guys have that as well, correct?
Yep.
On
Right
deck.
here, good to go.
Perfect. And then also BS Cigar Company. Obviously, that is something that holds very near and dear to my heart. But we have the gold and silver available. Check us out either on social media or, more importantly, the Bourbon and BS community page on Facebook, or you can contact us through the podcast page or Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. Very much a synergy thing here. So thank you very much, everyone, for the support. Tonight's topic is stay caffeinated. We've got the coffee guys here. I love coffee. I don't drink it enough. When I do drink it, the only coffee I do have now in the house, and I was like a Maxwell House. I was a normal thing. Like when I first started drinking coffee, I've told this story before. I didn't like the taste of coffee. I was more like growing up like a Mountain Dew guy. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
as a kid, high school, after college even. And I remember the guys in my old office, you had the 2 or 3 o'clock pot.
Yep.
It's like one of those things. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I've been drinking Mountain Dew all day. I'm good. I also was drinking about 1,000 calories of
Yeah.
sugar
Garbage.
water.
Yeah.
Garbage.
Yeah.
Put on a little weight in my late 20s. Tried to work it off and succeeded after I left that job, surprisingly enough.
It's weird how that works.
Weird. But that being said, I still have this story of when I first started drinking coffee black. And that was, we were, my ex-wife and I, who were still close, love Candy. She's awesome. Big supporter of everything that we do here. But we were visiting her dad and stepmom. And the dad says in the morning, he's like, do you want some coffee? And I had just started drinking coffee, but the guys at the shop are like sugar and cream kind of guys. So he pours me a cup. I'm like, oh, do you have like any sugar or cream? And he's like, and he's kind of, he works for a couple decades at AK Steel, that kind of guy. Great dude. Shout out to him, but we don't really do that around this house. I'm like, oh,
Not
oh
gonna
yeah,
do that.
okay. He's like, I think we got some milk in the fridge. I'm like, so as a normal son-in-law at the time would do,
Suck it up.
I'm good.
No, I love black
I'm
coffee.
good.
Yeah, but
I'm good. So I don't need the milk and drank black coffee ever since because my
do you
man
remember?
card was definitely in
Tested.
question.
Was that
It was
Maxwell your
tested.
first?
Well, see, now it's like now it's like everyone, you know,
Yeah.
most,
Yeah, you
most
throw
even
whatever you
guys,
want
it's
in.
like, yeah, like, is there coffee in that
Yeah.
drink? Because it is white.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
What was that? Maxwell a Folgers or was it a?
that day I don't remember
Yeah.
what it was, but ever since then, you know, like again at my old office, it was kind of like you drink coffee for caffeine.
Yeah.
That was it. You know what I mean? You drink it for pick me up. You stop
Yeah.
at a gas station and it's kind of thick on the bottom because
Yep.
it's been there for a while.
Shake it
You're
up
like,
a
all
little
right,
bit.
you know,
Yep.
this is gonna be real strong. This is gonna be a little bitter here.
Yep.
And it's like, all right, well, I'll just drink it like this. I'll get a water.
Roll with it.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, you guys more recently have gotten into the game and you guys very, very passionate about the industry. And that's not necessarily what this is all about, but coffee for me is something that it's got some nutritional attributes to it. Obviously, they talk about the antioxidants and things like that. It's natural.
Natural thermogenic.
Yep. Natural thermogenic. So you got the caffeine in there. It's all natural. It's kind of like cigars where my world is, where like people talk about nicotine. Nicotine's associated with cigarettes, where it's actually natural in tobacco.
Yep.
So it's not necessarily, and it's actually of the same family as caffeine.
Yep.
So there's a lot of similarities there. So that's what I want to say with that is that, you know, it's something that I don't drink enough coffee because I have to, like you were saying, watch my caffeine intake.
Yeah.
And I take supplements that has caffeine in it.
Mhm.
So I do miss, and I know you can drink decaf. You guys have a great decaf
Yep.
at Jennings Java, but it's one of those things that I try to steer clear because I really like coffee. But with other things that I'm doing in life, I stay caffeinated. And it was probably mid to late 2000 or 2020 that I realized that I can't process the volume of caffeine that I could in my 30s.
Yeah.
Because it was like one of those things when you get on like that workout thing, it's like, all right, it's like pre-workout 1 or 2
Yep.
times
Yep.
a day.
Yep.
And I'm like, all right, this fat burner also has this. So I'm gonna do a cycle of this fat burner. And then I realized that I'm just like, I'm not like mad, but it's just like I am not myself. It's just too much. It's just fueling me, and you can't process. Your brain doesn't work
Sometimes you can almost like feel your eyes shaking as
Well,
you're trying to
so
drive or something.
Here's the comment that, and I've talked about on this podcast in the past, because this is something that we talk about, like stay caffeinated. We talked about it's more like energy level, and in the description it was about, you know, staying focused, obviously, and just that energy, right? Stay energized.
Yeah.
But I remember I told my doctor the last time that, you know, I had to back off the fat burners and stuff like that because I was trying to do this as I was approaching my 40th birthday. And I'm like, I need to get back in like that shape I was. And 2020 was beating me up like everyone else, right?
Mhm.
So I was taking in all this caffeine, and I'm talking about with the pre-workout a couple times a day and the fat burner I was taking, I would say I was at somewhere around 1,400 milligrams of caffeine a day.
So no, honestly, with
which
that,
you've done before, I know, AJ, but you're also 26,
and
which I
honest-
could handle.
right.
Yeah.
And that honestly is like that spot right there. That's probably going to be one of the biggest things that we talk about that I'm going to take away from this, because I go through, I'll have a cup and a half, 2 cups in the morning with my fiance. Then around, 1, 2 o'clock, you start to get that drag. And I'm like, you know what? Energy drink will do it.
It's very, very like time oriented when I was taking in this stuff, because it's like one of those things. It's like with 1,400 milligrams roughly of caffeine in a day, it's like, well, I can't keep it that close. And I'm like,
you
it's
space
in the
it out.
same fucking day. Like anyone would say, like that's too close.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'll take pre-workout here, and then I'll wait 4 hours, take this, and then I'll wait another 3 hours, take this. And then it's like, don't want to take it too close to bedtime, but it's going to be late night because of the podcast and all that stuff. And then next thing you know, you're up till 2 a.m. drinking, and you do it all over again because you're now in this cycle.
Yeah. And
My
then-
doctor literally was like, he told me, this is what I was going to say about the healthy, like the brain function and everything else. So I go to the doctor for testosterone, among other things, just a full, he's wellness doctor, right? And we can talk about that going forward tonight. But he literally looked at me when I told him that. I said, I had to back off this. He's like, did your dick work? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, yeah. And it's like, yeah, but He's like, because that shit will, like, it shrinks your blood vessels.
Yeah.
And so you think about that when you're stay caffeinated, don't go too far. And I think
Right,
that's something we have to really introduce to this as we get into this.
I
I
think-
was worried about putting stay caffeinated, having you guys
Yeah.
on. And I joked about it earlier. You're like, well, I'm not drinking as much coffee,
Yeah.
Daniel. And it's like, well, way to sell your product. But at the same time, this is a steady thing. It's like, in your world, it's the slow drip.
Yep.
You don't need to have a pot of coffee.
Right.
Because you will affect the way your body works because you're restricting your blood vessels. And that's as far as really my medical knowledge
Yeah.
goes, but it will fuck you up and you will
Yeah.
you'll get agitated. And it's not just because of the jitters and what you're talking about, AJ,
Yeah.
but it is simply because you are slowing down blood flow. Like you're increasing a lot of like your heart rate, but you're also constricting your blood vessels, to my knowledge. And again,
Yep.
not a medical expert by any means, but this is what I've learned. And it will mess with your brain. It'll mess with your mood. It'll mess with a lot of things. So like
Yep.
keep it kind of in control and know your levels and be mindful of how you're reacting to certain things.
It's a substance. That's the
Yes.
biggest thing to
Yeah.
remember.
Yes.
Just like a distiller or a brewmaster, no one is going to be sitting there saying, we want this product to sell so much that you're now dealing with health problems. Actually, it's funny when I think of
here
stay
you go.
caffeinated, the first thing I think of is really, I'm saying that on the end of each of our love notes to basically tell people, take care of yourself. When I am fully caffeinated, I feel great. Once I get
Yeah.
the jitters, that's too caffeinated. I don't
Yeah.
want to be in that state. It's interesting because AJ and I purposely did not talk about what we mean by stay caffeinated before we got here,
Yeah.
because we have two different takes on it. Me as a coffee roaster, I enjoy, just like the cigar or this whiskey, lots of times more than just the taste or more than just the substance side of it, what it does, the community. I love that you started out talking about coffee with the story. That is literally why I got into coffee. Our whole mission as a brand is not to caffeinate people. It's to bring people together. We always joke that out of our shop, our goal as a company is to serve a cup of coffee or to serve a smile with a cup of coffee. And the reason is because there's always something more important than the product. The product is the buy to what we're serving. And so what we're serving is trying to brighten people's days up. And if you're having a whole pot of coffee, guess what? You're probably in a state where your days aren't that great. You're probably in this cycle like you were talking about. And so my take on stay caffeinated has always been the aspect of taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to, with what Steve was saying, and then I'll drink pre-workout at 7 p.m. and all of a sudden I'm wide awake at 11. And literally last night, and actually Nate, even, I don't know if you were jokingly commenting on the video that I posted or if you were serious about it, but like yesterday I made a post recounting how my day was. It was a busy day. I was literally caffeinated, and I got home and could not put a full sentence together to my fiance. And I literally, we're allowed to say the F word on here. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
All right, cool. I literally turned away from her to make sure she knew it wasn't towards her, screamed fuck to myself, like, AJ, get your shit together. Turned back to her, said, hey, I'm going to go to the gym. And I went to the gym. And that's when I made that video. And it was basically just like, yes, stay caffeinated in a sense that you feel good, like what Daniel's saying. We want you to leave our shop feeling good and energized and ready to take on the day. But we don't want you to get to the point where it throws everything else out of whack, because your caffeine intake, however you enjoy to get it, should be something that's enjoyed, that sets you up to go kick the day's butt.
So yeah, Ian's out there, saying stuff about when he was in the Army. He 2 pots, right? He was drinking a shit ton of it, right?
Yeah.
And he was in great shape, and he was, active, younger, like we kind of talked about. And I mentioned that is that, at my age now, I realized that, again, if it didn't push me to stay up later, try to squeeze more into my day, because this is that slippery slope, right? Because a lot of people you talk to, that are, maybe in older ages, I'm not even saying old, like 70s, 80s, 90s. I'm saying like, people that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s that are in the middle of their life, and they're like, they've got this kind of routine more or less, but they think it's like a mild thing of cocaine, right? It's like, I can be more productive, so I'm just going to go. And eventually you crash. But if you crash on the wrong day, or you get in that state that AJ you're talking about, where it's like you're literally in front of your fiance and you're trying to
just have a conversation.
Think about that, because Daniel said it's a substance, right? So this is a stimulant that you're intaking, and we're going over, in my opinion, we're going over the negatives before we get into the positives.
Because there is a lot of positives.
This is a disclaimer.
Yes,
here. It's just like drinking. You have a nightcap, you can have a drink, whatever, but as soon as you get too far, you're not yourself. That's where you have to really hopefully have people around you or have a sense of well-being that you can taper back, because you had to literally turn away and yell fuck
at myself,
at yourself, which is not normal behavior.
No.
Unless you like hit your thumb with a hammer and you're like,
that's happened too.
I believe that. It's more of a motor skills thing. But
it just goes downhill after you get done playing sports.
My point is, I've been there, and it's something that it's a fuel to a point. But this is something like Ian says later. Now that I'm old, and he says broke, I think he means just broke in, because he's talked about his surgeries, and built for comfort, not speed. I only have 2 cups or less a day. I will say that I had a guy that used to do IT work for the old company I worked for, and he was probably in his 40s, out of shape, all this stuff, didn't really exercise. He just worked, and he was a pot or 2 a day drinker. And sadly, he passed away in his mid 40s from heart failure. And it's like, that's one of those things, is that this is staying caffeinated. And I'll leave the disclaimer at this, if you guys are okay with that.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
This is a full picture type of thing, as always. The balance that we talked about with the cigar and whiskey, we talk about balance on this podcast. This is something that you make sure that you are healthy, that this is not the fuel.
Yeah.
You put high octane gas in a car that doesn't need it, you're going to fuck it up.
And
right.
Yeah.
So that's
absolutely.
my point. If you're out of shape, you're already stressed, you have heart conditions, you don't wait till the doctor tells you don't intake a whole lot of caffeine and all that stuff. It's because chances are you are obese, you don't exercise, you don't sleep well. Now you sleep worse because of this. And you're not using this energy for good.
Right.
You're using it to basically survive your wake up to your go to sleep.
Yeah.
And you are just getting to that point where AJ was, where you just
running
want to
down.
yell fuck all the time.
Yeah. And
that's not a quality of life.
And for me, actually,
I was
yeah.
gonna say, and then we can end.
And for me, it's interesting too, because
I want to stay positive here, but I want to throw it out there because I thought when I put that as stay caffeinated that it could be.
Yeah, there's all balance.
So as a distiller or anything like that, it's funny. I have a totally different take on caffeine and coffee in general as well. I got into coffee for the taste first off. So when I was drinking a lot of coffee throughout my early 20s, because I had a motorcycle accident here about 2.5 years ago. That really caused me to have to take a look at like health and stuff like that we'll dive into as well. But I was drinking coffee not because I needed that jolt of energy. I was drinking it because I was enjoying the flavor. And just like anyone who is in their craft, all of it was probably about the flavor. I don't think a distiller sitting here thinking, I need to drink this because of the alcohol percentage in this, And so my take on it has always been totally different from the aspect of I'm doing this for the craft. And I love the flavor I'm getting from this. But now, don't kid yourself, around 8 a.m., I need to stay caffeinated. There's something that needs to happen there. And that's what makes coffee so unique compared to other products
out
out there.
Don't drink caffeine that are just that natural high.
His name's Pete Kazmierczak. He's my father.
There you go.
But he used to drink a lot of Mountain Dew as well. And to those points, to kind of bring them all together, we are in an era that it's kind of becoming not necessarily cool, but the market trend is going back towards more caffeine. You look at Monster Java. It's a Monster energy drink with coffee with 300 milligrams of caffeine. Black Rifle Coffee Company has one with 300 milligrams of caffeine. I think Starbucks does. You look at companies like Death Wish. Death Wish Coffee prides itself on being the most caffeinated coffee.
Yeah.
And there's so many other ones. And so what we do in our industry is, and I give all props to Daniel. I don't deal with anything in the roasting process, which is good for everybody. And it's the sense that you can get your caffeine, you can stay caffeinated, you can enjoy it, and you can still drink it black. If you want to put stuff in it, that's fine. But we're making coffee and we're roasting coffee that allows you to enjoy it.
Yeah.
You get the caffeine kick, but you get it in a sense that you're ready to take on the day, not in a sense that you need to yell fuck to yourself.
Yeah, so there it is. There's a disclaimer, right? So that is the whole point, is that there has to be a balance. There has to be a limit.
Mm-hmm.
I had this conversation after some stuff I went through, where, I mean, again, we all had some 2020 things. We don't have to keep harping on it, but one of the things that I really made a comment to a friend of mine who actually had an incident driving. It was the second time. He didn't get a DUI because he went to one of those like weekend classes.
Yeah,
and thankfully no one was hurt other than the car. And we had this heart to heart, and I said, I'm dealing with this stuff too, because on like the podcast night and other nights, I need to drink whiskey like it has alcohol in it.
Yeah.
Which is, you guys talk about like coffee.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the same thing. You drink whiskey and it's like for the flavor, and then all of a sudden you're just kind of sipping on it. If you guys are drinking coffee and we're having a good conversation for like 4 or 5 hours, and someone's like, hey, you need a top off. That's the old school diner, right?
Oh,
yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. I'll take the top off. I gotta, leave here in a little bit.
Always the
and
nicest, always the nicest ladies too. They're asking.
Yeah. But that's one of those things, is that you have to drink coffee like it has caffeine in it,
Mhm.
because you do it for the flavor at the beginning, but then all of a sudden now you're just all hyped up. And now you're just drinking coffee because it's in front of you and you're drinking coffee. Same thing for me and a lot of people with alcohol. You have to drink these things like they have alcohol in them.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll say. So with that being said, you guys are, AJ, I know you better. Daniel, I'm getting to know you a little bit more over the last several years. But when your energy level is something, you guys are in business especially. And we've already talked about the negatives if you go too far.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not like just taking bumps of cocaine just to
Yeah.
get through the day.
Right.
For the real extreme.
Yep.
How is that, like, the drive? Like, how do you get through that? I mean, you talk about in the morning you have to stay caffeinated, right? That's your slogan, but it's like you have to have a kickstart.
Yeah. So for me, my why, I think every business owner needs to have their why to their brand. The reason I started Jennings Java, I kind of geared to that at the start, is really was made the business enjoyable for me in the last year, especially as we switched. At the start of COVID, we were really mainly wholesale, meaning we were going to restaurants, working with chefs, and that's an awesome industry to be in, but it didn't match my why. My why that I got into roasting coffee was to enhance people's days, to feel like I could take part in starting someone's morning on the right note. And that's so awesome. As weird as it sounds, yes, I need that caffeine to get me going. But once I get that caffeine in me, I'll many times get to the shop at 6 a.m. and not have my first cup, believe it or not, till around 9 a.m. Mm-hmm. And what motivates me is not the coffee itself. It's the fact that what I'm selling is not a cup of coffee. What I'm selling is AJ and my personality as a coffee guy, is making sure that you come in, you're going to leave feeling better than you did. And that is my reason for waking up each morning. That's my reason for going and serving coffee to people, is knowing that pretty much all of us in this garage are starting out with a cup of coffee. And when people come to our shop, they're not feeling good because they need that caffeine in them. And it's my job to serve them that caffeine boost that tastes amazing.
Yeah.
And also a product more than just the cup, the experience of interacting with us. Cause I think I always loved consumer behaviors when I was studying business, because this whiskey tonight, maybe I enjoy this whiskey more than I do a whiskey that grade score wise. And I say grade score, that's what we use for coffee to analyze what is the actual quality of it. But lots of times it's actually the experience that makes something more enjoyable. So my why and my reason for stay caffeinated is pretty much, you're coming in the shop and you need to feel valued. You need to feel loved. And I know that sounds redundant, but it's really the truth of the matter when we're in that industry.
So what I'm hearing here, and this is a bit of a metaphor, but there was a time, right, where, and it wasn't, I guess, it was several years ago, that they had these, at the time, they're really high-end coffee machines, right, in the house. We could set a timer. So you set it up, you pour it, in the filter before you go to bed.
It's ready for the morning.
And you wake up at, say, like 6:30.
You got that smell.
Yes.
Oh.
So what you're describing to me is part of that experience of staying caffeinated and that drive.
Yep.
Is that for you personally, it's getting in there and starting your day, and you'll finally get your first cup of coffee. But it's about, like, I got to get up, I got to go start doing my job. so that I can get people in the shop, and that's where you guys are evolving the business, and I love that.
Exactly.
Because I think that's a lot of it, is that it's that full experience. The caffeine or that rush, everyone equates it to once it actually hits your body, right?
Yep.
But it's the same thing with the whiskey or the cigar. It's like cigar, for example, you know, you're like, all right, I'm gonna go to my humidor. Like, it's time for a cigar.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to my humidor. I'm gonna go to my cigar shop, my brick and mortar, and now I'm gonna cut it.
Yep.
And I'm gonna see some of the people, or I'm gonna see, you know, like my favorite chair, all this stuff. It's all, this is how it starts.
Yeah.
It's like when you first, like, you open that bag of Jennings Java or whatever, you know, the coffee that you have, and you
it's your morning ritual. That's what it is. Yeah.
You smell this, and like, like you're already waking up a little bit.
Exactly.
Because we are kind of like the just animals there. It's like, all right, so this is, I know where this leads. I know where I'm going to get to. I know where I'm going to feel that caffeine. I'm going to feel this. I know that flavor that's coming, but you get that aroma first. And I think that's what I would, when I was listening to you speak about that, is that's what I think even you, and then also the people that are getting to your shop. Yeah. That's driving them to get in the shower, to get, you know, everything done at the house. So like, all right, that part of my day is done. Now I'm getting to my next stage. Yeah. Like, I'm smelling the coffee as I'm driving to Jennings Java.
Definitely. And that's the thing. Like, dude, just listening to this cat talk, like, you know, I'm so glad that I'm in business with him, because for me, yes, I do drink a lot of just regular caffeine from other sources and stuff like that. But I guess you could call it natural caffeine, is people. Yep. And so, in the sense, kind of tying in with what Daniel's saying, there's plenty of times when we're opening up the box and we get in and we're like, okay, I need to do XYZ first, because I know for a fact we're going to have 5 or 6 people come in, and I'm going to make sure those guys are getting their stuff before I worry about myself. Because we have a gentleman, we've got tons of regulars now, which we're so fortunate for, but there's a guy in particular that comes in every Saturday before the sun comes up. He drives a yellow car. He comes in, he gets a large nitro cold brew with a shot of vanilla in it. Okay. And I look forward to him coming in every single time, because unfortunately he doesn't have the best view of the world. And I know for a fact when he comes in, he's looking for that little bit of social interaction. He wants that sip of that nitro cold brew, the crema, the cream on top of it, the full body flavor of it. And I know for a fact he's leaving better than when he got here.
And here's something bold that I always talk about too. And this is out of respect for the coffee industry in general. Just like craft beer, your whiskeys as well. There is plenty of great products to go around.
Sure.
And so we started out the brand initially thinking we're going to roast really good coffee and people will enjoy it. And then not to take away at all from the product, because I think we have a great product, and I am always, that product has to be great for people to start their morning in a good manner. But they could go to any other roastery in Columbus and enjoy a great cup of coffee, but they might not leave feeling that good. And so it shows that balance between the caffeine intake and also the atmosphere feeling valued. And that's something that we really focused on in the last year, especially is, and part of that comes out of preparation for ourselves, that AJ might need his caffeine before he serves customers. I can literally get energy just through people smile when they taste our product.
Yeah.
But is that
you just share that a little bit?
Sorry.
Hey, let him talk.
Let him.
But from that aspect of,
no one's listening to you, AJ.
Good. I want them listening to Daniel.
We turned off your mic a while back.
Thank goodness.
I think the aspect of really making sure people understand that the best cup of coffee that you're going to enjoy is the coffee that's right for you. So we were joking about black coffee and stuff like that. If a customer comes in and wants half a cup of cream, half a cup of coffee, and that's how they start their morning, and that's their morning ritual, don't make them feel guilty about that. And so it's kind of that removal of, sometimes I think in the craft industry, we can get pretentious very quickly.
That is a negative stigma for sure.
And it's not that we don't want to appreciate all the awesome features of our product, but you're not going to be able to educate someone to enjoy the product in a better manner if you throw them off when they come in and ask for in this way. You might be able to say, hey, how about we try it with a little less cream this week, because I think there's something you're missing here. But that starts out with literally serving the customer at where they're at.
That's the way, yeah, you educate, right? So like, and you can, there's a good possibility that they're going to stay with what they like, right?
Exactly, yeah.
People are, myself included, we're creatures of comfort. And, but I think that's one of those things with you guys. It's nice because you can actually be like, hey, I tell you what, this week I was thinking about that. Or I was thinking about it after you left yesterday. This is part of that experience, right?
Yeah.
You really like this blend of coffee with this, and this, in it. I want to give you just a quick sample before you drink that. Drink this. It's a different blend.
Exactly.
It's a little softer, you know what I mean? Or it's a little softer flavor, but it's got a lot of caffeine. What you're going to be missing, just so you guys, it doesn't have the sugar.
Yep.
So you will feel a little different
Yep.
as far as the stimulant, because sugar is that. But I want to just offer that because I really like this. And now that they like you, I really like this.
Yeah.
It's like that ex-father-in-law, and he was a really nice guy, don't get me wrong. But when he said, he's like, we don't drink it like that around here. I'm like, neither do I now.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because there was a level of respect there that I'm like, okay, you do it like this, I'll give it a shot. And I never went back. And I think you'll have that a little bit as well.
And a cool example of that, kind of as you were talking about, to get more into the details of your roast profile on the coffee and things like that. We have so many customers that will come in that will ask for their French roast or their dark roast in their coffee. My dad, who's a business partner with us as well, really enjoys his darker coffees. And most of the time people enjoy those darker coffees is because they're afraid of the acidity levels in coffees. Some of your higher grown coffees are always going to have higher acidity levels. And the reason is that is actually anaerobic respiration, meaning we're producing more lactic acid, just like how your muscles get that lactic acid, which makes you sore. And so one of the ways that I'll approach someone who says, I don't like lighter coffees is, well, let's look at a Sumatran coffee, or let's look at a Brazilian coffee that's grown in lower elevation. It's kind of that aha moment for people when they go, this doesn't have much acidity to it, but it's very sweet. And all of a sudden, someone like my dad is like, I can drink light roasted coffee. Just no one ever approached it to me in that manner.
It's an education thing. Like I said, I mean, that's one of those things, like even when I think prior to you guys, with the big boom of, the private roasters like yourselves, kind of like you mentioned, craft brew and stuff like that. And now we're doing obviously the Bourbon BS podcast, that it's one of those things, like whiskey was whiskey and beer was beer.
Mm-hmm.
Coffee's coffee. Like I remember when I went into Starbucks for the first time, I was that guy that I'm like, I'll take a large black coffee. And it wasn't like the scene in what was it, Role Models, which I love that fucking scene. But it was like one of those things, like which one do you want? I was like,
black.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to be that guy. It was like literally, I was like, I was like being myself. I wasn't being an ass. Sometimes I am, but I'm like with a stranger doing their job. I'm like, I don't know what you mean. I just want I want the biggest one, and I wanted black coffee.
Nothing in it.
And they're like, oh, okay. Well, and then they did a little bit of that. Because that barista was a nice person. Like, so we have these three blends, and this is the light roast, the medium roast, and the dark roast. I'm like, okay. I was like, strongest, and biggest cup, and black. And they're like, okay, you want this? I was like,
exactly.
I do want that. Oh, yeah, that sounds great. I'll have that.
Yeah, definitely. And that's it's almost not necessarily comical, but it's kind of funny to think about it because of the fact, especially if you catch Daniel on new coffee release day, we'll probably sample out or give away more than we actually sell, just because we're like, hey, we're excited about this. Just try it. Even if
keep them coming back.
Yeah. And people know that if they come down to us, we're not going to say, okay, we have XYZ and that's all we got. Generally speaking, on the weekends, we'll have 3 different, like you said, light, medium, dark. We'll have those up. But if you see something on our list and you're like, I was really hoping to try this, Daniel's already got hot water going. He's got a pour over started to get you a single cup of
One of the reasons too is because I would feel like a terrible person if I sent Steve you away with a lighter coffee that was super acidic that you just hated. because you wanted to try something new. I'd rather let's hit a small sample of that first and make sure you like that, because I'd rather develop that relationship with you first and make sure you have that freedom to try different coffees. So you're more educated. So next time you come to your shop, you can be like, last week I had that coffee from Rwanda and that had some lemon zest to it, and I did not like that. So let's stay away from that. Well, now I know. I'm remembering that Steve does not like those lemon tones and that citrus-like acidity to it.
Yeah.
So maybe we try a pour over of another fruity coffee that has berry tones to it. You might like that because that's a totally different fruit, you know?
Yeah,
And so,
yeah.
oops, sorry about that. But
This dude has a journal in his head of all of our regular customers. It might not be their names, but what they got, what they like, what they don't like. And generally speaking, and this is from experience with a lot of our customers, when Daniel hits the nail on the head or when I hit the nail on the head and we find something that you like,
yeah,
they're either walking away with 2 bags that day, or over the next couple of weeks, they'll buy a 1-pound bag, you know, every single week, basically until we run out of it. And so it's one of those, yes, obviously being in business, we need to make money and stuff like that, but we want to make money while benefiting you. Now, all of a sudden, going back to what you're saying, you wake up in the morning, as soon as you crack that bag open, and your day's already rolling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's dive into that a little bit. You know, what drives you? What gets you, you know, going in the morning?
I
Because
think
you guys have hit it already, is that I absolutely love the fact that, you know, you guys are passionate about it. And that is the difference. You can buy coffee from anywhere. You can buy coffee from the grocery store. You can make it yourself. You guys are in the business of, obviously, you can support and supply people with coffee for them to make on their own. But your biggest thing is you keep getting at this thing, which I absolutely love, is that you guys are trying to get people coming back, make people happy. And that is something that I will say is very refreshing and admirable. I love that. That's where I'm like, I put it in there, and I don't know if I can see more here. How did I describe this? Stay caffeinated. This part 2 is all about staying energized and focused. Caffeine is a common stimulant, yet these guys are more than just about coffee. We dive into ways to stay healthy, driven, and at the top of the game. So that's where I want to transition this to this point. You guys, and we can do that. We can talk about coffee all night.
Mm-hmm.
But what I like about you guys is what a lot of people do. It's that you people come back, or you're going to get people to come back because of who they are. You know, like these guys, you buy from people you like.
Yeah.
If you're buying from people you don't like just because of the product, you need to try some other products.
And
because
we've all
I
been
guarantee
there.
you're probably going to find some products that you're going to like, and it'll have a different label on the bag. It's going to be a little different, or whatever it might be. But it's, you know, this day and age, people don't buy just for labels. They do it first, but then they buy from the people. Especially when you're buying local, you guys aren't like, you can order online, right? You can ship anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. It's like they can buy from you because you're the coffee guys.
Yeah.
I love that.
And yeah, absolutely. To that being said, you know, I guess what drives us is, where was I going with that? Yeah. What drives us is, for me personally, is people and making your day better. And adding with that is, we are all creatures of habit. We hear that 1,000 times over, and there's a point to this, but Daniel's dad actually got me a book called Business Made Easy.
Okay.
And in this book, the guy writing it, he's in an interview and talking with another guy, and he goes, okay, well, what industry are you in? And at the time, the guy's in real estate. He goes, well, I'm in the industry of selling houses. He goes, that's where you messed up. You're in the hospitality industry. And if you look at it,
frame of mind, right?
Yeah. Your frame of mind, you know, you're not in the business of selling houses. You're in the business of getting someone so comfortable and so excited about the house that they want to buy it. And we're in the same boat of, you know, I see us in the same boat as hospitality. We want to give you the full ordeal every time you see the coffee guys. And we want to make sure that you are walking away better than when you came to us. We want to make sure that you have had an amazing experience. You are having great coffee in the morning, because if you're waking up each morning, we do cold brew growlers. And that way people don't even have to do anything in the morning. They can just go to their fridge, pull it out, unscrew the top, pour it in, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
And you know that that's coming from Jennings Java. It's coming from just two dudes that really like coffee and really like people. And so for me, my driving force is just make someone's day a little bit better. Get them out of their comfort
You've said
zone.
that on the podcast before.
Yeah. And I mean,
no, but it was not just about coffee. This was about other things.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe it is beating a dead horse, maybe it's not, but that's my driving factor.
Not what I meant.
But that's where AJ and I, you can see the relationship as business partners works so well, because when you both have that same why, because we had other people that were interested in working with us, and great people too. They just had a different why. And so it was very easy for me to comfortable pursuing this business with AJ, because knowing that we're both in it for something more than a product. We're both in it no matter what we're doing. If we're not in the coffee industry, I know AJ will be out there selling beer, selling snowboards, whatever he's doing to enhance someone's day, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And, Daniel takes this as both a good and a bad, because I know that he would love to be in this position. But I tell people frequently, if we were not in business together, Daniel would be a head roaster or head of a shop or head barista at another coffee company, because that's his outlet to make someone's day better. And so, that's kind of, the driving factor, what caffeinates me in the morning when I wake up and, you roll out of bed and you're like, all right, what are we getting into today? Well, we're getting into making people feel better.
Ian said he likes what was it? How do we say this? Coffee.
Caballeros.
Better.
Someone looked that up.
Rings on my ear better than coffee, guys. He's trying. I thought he was like talking about another company. I was like, why do you know? Like, these guys are on our show, and you're just throwing out this
just
fucking
plugging
coffee.
Somebody
Yeah,
else.
like Ian, like you're a huge supporter of this podcast, and he's like, I just like the way it sounds. I'm like, oh, all right, you're trying to give these guys another nickname. All right, good.
I like it. I'm all for the nicknames.
Let's sign our papers tomorrow a little bit differently. We might need to learn how to spell that.
Caballero.
We're gonna start getting responses. What the heck does this mean? We don't know.
We don't know. Someone told us.
Yeah.
Oh, it would translate as coffee gentleman.
Oh,
that's not bad. All right, now we're getting some
royalty to Ian.
We should probably
send him a bag.
we should probably buy a tie.
He's in Tennessee.
There
also,
we go.
There you go.
Just an excuse to go visit him and drink whiskey. We don't deliver that far. Hand deliver.
I could get my truck down that way. I think I have a trip coming up. No,
I was gonna say you got a trip.
Yeah. Well, you keep talking about us. How do you stay caffeinated?
No.
You're not gonna avoid this topic.
I stay caffeinated through I told you pre-workout and
Testosterone.
No, overall wellness. We I mean, that is definitely part of the topic is overall health, right? So that's the big part of it. Is we've seen that in more recent days, and we've talked about it. I've talked about it a lot on the podcast, is that this is something that I've really strived to do, and I overcompensate. Like I said, in 2020, it was one of those things that, again, as you get older, as Ian was alluding to, is that you can't necessarily do things the way you could when you're younger, and that includes doing some of these stimulants and stuff like that. The body doesn't process it the same way, and also there's other factors that are involved in there. So I have really tried to dial in, as I always have in my life. I've tried to dial into the health thing. And so I'll just give my quick plug is find a good doctor that really checks under the hood. And that means blood tests and everything else. Don't just go to a general practitioner. As you get older, if you're not feeling right, just don't try to self-medicate. Don't go to WebMD. Don't go on antidepressants. Go to a general practitioner, because I feel it down. Because one of the things they won't ask in full relevant conversation to this, how much coffee do you drink? How much caffeine do you bring in? That's just not something that comes up. You talk about like hormone levels and stuff like that. That is very, very important. When you are younger, to kind of go full circle here, when you're younger, you have a lot more natural production of a lot of things that's more commonplace, and it's not all just ad bait, stuff like that for some supplements you see on commercials. This is something that I had a conversation with someone that I met recently, and we were talking about the difference of like males doing the whole testosterone replacement therapy and checking your levels and all that stuff, where females in my generation, so your guys's might be a little different, but I think it is similar. People that are in 20s, girls that are in 20s, You go in for testosterone as a male, they're checking your blood levels, they're making sure that you're healthy, they're doing all this stuff, right? Even like the T clinics, right? Low T clinics. If you're a female in your teens and you had acne, you're on birth control. If you are, trying not to get pregnant at any age, you're on birth control.
They treat it like a one-stop shop.
They don't take blood tests. They don't affect the levels. They're like, oh, this one's not working. Let me give you this one.
Mm-hmm.
This is the knowledge that I got from this person. This new friend that I have that she's talking about this, and I'm like, yeah, that's the bullshit of it. Like, you should get this, and before they prescribe a birth control that's hormones for females, you should have some sort of blood test to see where you're at on your hormone levels. So there is this wellness aspect of it.
Yep.
And I think some of those some of the things that I'm talking about is that you don't necessarily need to go to a doctor when you're dealing with some anxiety and depression. Again, no medical advice on this show at all. But for me, it's what are you eating? What are you have you seen a doctor recently? Are you afraid to see a doctor? And the biggest thing for me, I've said on this podcast before, is that when you go to a doctor, it's like when a dentist asks you, do you floss every day? And you say yes, and you don't, they already know you're lying.
Yep.
Why are you lying to the professional that you went to?
Yeah,
Look,
like
you
they
go to a
can't see it.
doctor and you're like, how do you feel?
Right.
How do you feel? I feel great. You
Well,
feel
then
like
why are
shit.
you? Well, then why are you
Yeah.
here?
Like, do you have any anxiety?
Yeah.
No,
No.
not at all. Every fucking day I have anxiety.
Yes.
I don't want to leave the house.
Yes.
And it's like, that's what you need to tell people.
Yeah.
You need to tell like the professionals, because that is part of it.
Yep.
Well,
So that's what I will
Yeah.
say to that, is that I've really tried to be honest with myself about a lot of that stuff. And like I said, late summer, early fall, I was trying to battle a lot of the other things that were going on. Like, oh, I'll just give myself more fuel. Like, I'll do this fat burner. I'll just like really punch through the day so I can get through it. That's good for a while until you crash.
Doesn't
but if you
work
keep
forever.
doing it. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, did you want to add anything to that? Because I know
Yeah.
you're itching over there.
Have a little bit of a story with that stuff myself, don't I?
Do I hit a nail?
I'm
Yeah.
gonna see myself out on this one.
Not to get into too much detail about that, but
I mean, it's still relevant to the
very
stay
relevant,
caffeinated topic.
I went through a good bit of struggling with my own mainly depression that I would never want to talk to anyone about. I'm sure I may have mentioned this to you a couple times, Steve, but in 2019, and I don't relate it all back to a motorcycle accident or anything like that, but
that was the nail on the head. Though.
Yeah, where lots of things changed in my life. Got in a motorcycle accident, lost lots of memory. And one of the interesting things here recently has been, we don't know if the memory's due to trauma, if it's due to the head injury itself. I wrecked at 70 plus miles an hour. At least what the no one knows. No one's there when I wrecked. But anyway, I remember actually some of the first memories I have were like in July. That's maybe 5 months later.
Wow.
And
long term, short term, everything.
Everything, yeah. Mainly short term. It was going to be probably about like a 6-month part of my life that I just don't. Very foggy.
To add to Daniel's point, we did a farmer's market, and the last time we were at this farmer's market was in his, memory loss section. And he comes in, we're setting up a table, and he goes, "Hey, where are we at?" And I look at him and I'm like, "What do you mean? We're over in the corner where we were the last time." And he's like,
"We've been here before."
He's like, yeah, literally.
And I had no idea of where we were even at.
Continue.
Yeah. But it was a 2-year period leading up to this past October where the first time I remember, I'm a huge Deadhead. So I was at a Dead and Company concert with my dad. One of the happiest things for me to be with my dad at a Dead show. And I remember seeing everyone in this. It was the first example of, I might be struggling with something a little deeper than just what I thought that I could just brush off, which was my depression, which was I'm at this happy place. And all of a sudden, all these happy places made me feel sad.
Yeah.
But as a man, I don't want to talk to anyone about it. I can figure it out.
As a man, yes.
Yep.
And I'll say anymore. It's
anyone. Yeah.
Anyone.
Anyone.
Yeah,
exactly. Like
classically, it's
honestly, it's just
male,
the pride. It's not just the man. It's just the pride in yourself
it's all over the place. No. And when you're depressed, you don't want to talk about it. That's part of the feeling.
And so
if
I
you
went.
You might, I don't say lash out, but you really kind of push away?
I almost felt guilty
Yeah.
from a sense, because I had all these great things in my life, and for some reason I just didn't have any of this happiness that I know I should have had.
Yep. Been there.
Yeah. And so I went through
A lot of
pretty
people
much
have.
2 years holding it all in. And AJ knows that he could even bring this up because I've been so over the top talking about it recently, because I never want anyone to do the same exact thing that I did.
Love
which
it.
I'm so thankful for.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I held it in. My parents knew a little bit about it, not much. It landed me literally through a very depressive episode in October where I don't know everything that went into it, but it just was everything, all the anxiety, everything that I was holding in hit.
Yeah.
It landed me in a mental hospital for a week just for my own safety. And I can tell you one of the craziest things is I don't think the medication or anything like you were saying that I got at the hospital was very beneficial for me by any means. But the one thing that was beneficial for me, and this is just my story,
Yeah. Absolutely.
is
Please.
the aspect of all of a sudden I got out of that hospital. I didn't have to hide from anything anymore.
Yeah.
I was able to talk with my family about it. There was no hiding from it. Everyone knew. And the second I realized that everyone was ready there to support me anyway, was realizing that talking with the doctors and stuff like that, there was no need for me to ever hide all that stuff. But it was this own stigma in my brain that was basically telling me that, oh, I'm not supposed to talk about that. You know, I can get through this on my own. And really what you need is you need your buddies and you need other people to be there for you. And so through the whole thing, I'm learning the aspect of there are still some medications that work for me that are beneficial.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of other things that I needed to do to take care of myself too, which was being open with people about it, talking with people, building that community, and realizing that I can talk with Steve, and Steve might know a little bit about this. AJ might know a little bit about this. And I'm not isolated in that, you know?
And we've talked about it before. Just to add to this, I would like to think that, you know, when this episode happened, I mean, I felt like someone just called and told me, hey, you know, a relative just got in a car accident and we don't know anything else, but that's what happened. Cause that's where I was at.
It's equivalent.
And I would like to think, and we've talked about it before, the day you got out of the hospital, I was like, cool, we're back to work. You know, nothing has changed from the sense of, I'm not going to treat you like this science case. You know, we're still friends. I consider us family. We're still running this business together. It just so happens that now there's this added aspect that in a sense caffeinates Daniel to, I can't tell you how many times he's gotten into conversations with people that just came for a cup of coffee, but they were having the worst day. And this guy starts going in talking about his story, and you literally see a light. Like, dude, I'm getting goosebumps. You literally see a light go on in these people's minds. And now they've left with a smile, with a coffee, and with a new friend that they know they can come back, grab a cup of coffee, talk to Daniel, and it's all good. So I think that also, correct me if I'm wrong, that also caffeinates you in the sense that you're not alone.
Yeah. And you hear with the mental health and stuff like that, the stigma. And one of the things that I realized about myself was it wasn't the stigma around what I was worried other people thought about myself. It was what I thought about myself, and having to humble myself and say, hey, reach out my hand. I need someone else to help me through this, you know?
So you hit on a big point with that. And you know,
where do you go from there?
No, it's a common theme with a lot of this stuff, and I think you know, you talked about holding up and just not wanting to talk to people about it, and I think that's something that is super important. You guys talk about like wanting to, you know, you're caffeinated or energized by people, but you're not fake about it. So it's the communication aspect of it, and with you guys trying to do more social media, you know, and stuff like that, we all know that's a big shortcoming of some of that, is that you try to put on your good face. You know what I mean? You put your impression on that you want people to get from you. And some of the people that are more over the top doing these things and showing how amazing everything is, if you don't show your flaws, and I'm not saying put the burdens on everyone all the time, because I've done that where you draw it out too long, because you're putting you're communicating, but there's the two-way street. You know what I mean? So you the big thing right now, I think a lot of times is, you know, the victim talk, you know what I mean? Like you feel like a victim, and you can be, but once you get that out there, is that you want to move forward.
Yep.
And what you're talking about, Daniel, I think it's really, really impactful, is that you got to that point. I wouldn't necessarily call it a rock bottom, but you probably thought it was. And that's very valid, because to that aspect, it was probably the most rock bottom you've ever felt.
Yeah, and that was the most realistic for me. Other people have hit far worse rock bottoms, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. But you come out of it, now you're inspired. You want to like, hey, this is what I went through.
Yep.
This is what I did. So you're no longer hiding it. You know what I mean? But it's all this positive twist where you're able to communicate with people, and you may even and this is not towards you, but this is anyone out there, but you might overshare because you're like, this is what I want to do. And they're like, oh no, I forgot to feed my cat this morning.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like that was like their bad day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like, all
and
right.
that's where,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is impactful. Like that they're going to take that. And again, people buy from people they like. It's not a business thing, but it's all related back to that. It's about being genuine. It's about putting yourself out there. And also when I say, playing that like victim card,
right?
When you put yourself out there, there's this turning point where I think you're at, Daniel, hearing this story, is that you also opened up your receptors.
Yeah.
That's what you learned from it.
Yep.
That your biggest takeaway, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, but this is what I'm hearing, is that your biggest takeaway, what energizes you, what really gets you going about this and business and life and people, is that you're sharing so that other people can share and you'll listen, because you didn't want to do that before.
Exactly.
I love that.
And that's the emotional intelligence in, is that I don't need to tell my story to every single person that comes in. I don't need to talk about it for hours on end. I need to open up that door, because I was afraid to open up that door, but basically open up that door. So if someone needs to talk about it, they know I'm there for them now, and I'm willing to listen to that. Whereas beforehand, with the coffee business and everything like that, we branded ourselves as the kind of the guys who had it all together. And I felt fake for so long doing that, because people were like, oh, you guys have it going on. It looks like you guys are enjoying life. And quite frankly, I was having a hard time. And now there's a balance to, I love what I'm doing, but there is still a daily struggle that I deal with. And I'll be open to talk about that with people. But yeah.
I went through a tough time as well recently, and it's one of those things that I was putting like a lot of my thoughts out there on social media with a lot of like, there are certain people in my life that are like, well, you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
And then I had these second connections, right? These people that like I'm Facebook friends, Instagram friends with, and this is all my personal, I didn't put it in my business, you know what I mean? But it was one of those things that I would run into them, or I'd get this random comment, like a direct message, like, hey, I really appreciate you putting this rawness out there. And that was my way in this day and age. I don't know why. I wasn't like looking for sympathy, but it was my way of processing it. Because if you are going through your day to day and everything else like that, like you don't want to necessarily do it. But I was very open with people that I trusted, and then also on social media to a point. It wasn't bad mouthing anyone or anything like that. It was just me processing it a little more publicly. I had this conversation with my friend a few days back, and a lot of people don't do that. They don't process, and they hide it. And so it's like when it's all full circle and you come out of it, did you actually shed those feelings?
Yep.
If you just kept plowing ahead, like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
No, this is fine. What I'm doing is fine. Like what happened? No, it's cool.
And my way of dealing with
and then all of a
that
sudden, like 6 months later, or 6
Yep.
years later, you're like, I'm still fucked up.
Yep.
Because I didn't actually embrace this.
Yep. And so AJ, my dad and my whole family caught on to it. I was pulling like 14-hour days because the best way for me to deal with it was move forward and
plow ahead.
Yep.
Dude, I still to this day yell at, and let me backtrack. It used to be, before the incident, it used to be, dude, there's no reason for you to do this. Why are you there at this time? Why are you doing this? Like, we're moving forward, we're moving ahead. What are you doing? And then this happened, and now I'm still talking about that, but now instead of that, I'm like, hey, listen, if you got a busy day, let me go make the delivery down south.
Yeah.
If I know you're roasting today, recently it's been propane tanks that need refilled. I know you're supposed to be roasting for 8 hours today. Let me go fill those propane tanks so that you don't have to stop what you're doing and you can just keep on.
Well,
And so now, instead of me just telling him, don't do that, it's, I know you're going to do that regardless.
Yep.
How can I help with that?
And then what did we have? We had in February, the first time where I realized that, hey, this is a point of my life where I would like to work through some of these issues, you know, and I'd like to just deal with them that way. And I reached out to both AJ and my dad and said, hey, I think I need a little bit of time off. And that's not a bad thing for me to do. That's not saying I'm not a hard worker. It was that for my personal health and for the business, the best thing to do right now would be to face these things that I'm going through.
And what we do, we made sure that we made it happen.
Yep.
Well, you worked past that negative stigma.
Yeah.
I do want to throw up a couple of comments here.
Yeah,
that
definitely.
are really, really pertinent here. Nate, do you want to talk about any of your stuff? I mean, you and Dustin are kind of going back on that.
I can, or you can just highlight my comments.
Yeah, I mean, we've got great conversation going on in the comments.
Ian, who we talked about earlier, he threw one out there. Is that so? This is about communication, and again, I love part 2 because we talk about staying caffeinated. And this is like really it's about what drives people, right? This is what we're talking about. So Ian says, I've lost several great friends, but I lost my best friend at my feet in Afghanistan. So very impactful here. Sorry, my condolences. Couldn't get him help in time. I came home and was miserable. I was a miserable bastard and miserable to be around for the better part of 2 years and never once told it to other friends or family. So again, communication, it's getting it out there. I do want to throw out there as well.
And that's also another thing that puts in perspective, like that right there makes everything that, I might be going through seem small, because there's no way I will ever feel that way. And like you said, condolences, and that's awful, but I'm glad that you have pulled through. I assume that you've pulled through and that you are better on the other side of it.
And thanks for sharing it too. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And to Daniel's point, you still will struggle with that day to day. I mean, you never know when these
something that I don't think is going away.
You'll wake up one morning, see something, whatever, think about it. Bobby Hirschman says, be real, always. Real men are open and cry and show emotion. I will throw that out there. Absolutely. But also I will encourage women as well to feel that way. Because again, I know this is, again, a lot of males listen to this show, and is, again, cigars, whiskey are male dominated, but I know we have a lot of female listeners as well. And I will say, in this day and age, especially, a lot of the same struggles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Most of the same struggles.
But, and a lot of people feel alone, like they can't talk about it. Like, oh, no one else knows what I'm going through. And they might not know exactly.
I think that's the truth too, is the aspect of each situation is different. But you'll learn to never look at someone else's situation and say, I understand, but say, I'm here for you. There's struggles that you're going through that I will never be able to understand, because each situation is different, But,
absolutely.
And, I think between that and honestly what Robert Crow said, which is you can't burn yourself all the way at the wick. Mental and personal health will always and should be a priority. That's honestly a good caveat to why I'm not drinking tonight. I'll never pretend like I'm going through what Ian went through or what Daniel went through, because I would never wish that on my worst enemy. But I was burning it at both ends, and, similar to Daniel, 7 days a week, had a day job, was doing Jennings Java, was trying to help other people here and there. And, so-and-so needs help here. Well, let me move my stuff around to go help them with this and keep that going. And it just got to the point where it was just so overwhelming. And so I actually found a program from a guy that I listen to, and I've mentioned him a lot on this podcast.
I actually have talked about it on the podcast as well.
Is Andy Frisella, and he created this program which, as a byproduct, you get more physically fit, you get in better shape and stuff like that. But it's called 75 Hard, and the gist of it is an outdoor workout 45 minutes, an indoor workout 45 minutes. They can't be back to back. Read 10 pages a day, drink a gallon of water a day, diet, and absolutely no alcohol. And this is 75 days straight.
It's called 75 Hard.
Yes, 75 Hard. But the real gist of the program is it is a mental toughness, fortitude, mental shaping challenge, in that you've got to do all this other stuff. You can't have the distractions and things like that. And I can honestly say I'm on day 53.
Wow.
And my mind, now granted, I had that outburst last night, but aside from that, my mind has never been more clear on what my goals are, what my passion is, why I'm waking up in the morning, what caffeinates me. I know, I talk about other people and stuff like that, but I want to make sure when I wake up in the morning, I want to make sure Daniel is at the top of his game, and anything I can do to help him be at the top of his game, that's going to help everyone in the long run. And it's given me the ability to notice. We've talked crossroads before, where, a lot of times you're walking and you go to a crossroad and you've already walked past it. You've gone down the right side. And this challenge has allowed me to basically mentally stop in that crossroad and decide, okay, if I go this way and choose to be miserable the rest of the day, I'm not going to benefit myself. I'm not going to help me out. I'm not going to be able to help anyone that I love out. I'm not going to be able to help Daniel out, things like that. If I go right, and now I'm able to see those crossroads and, once again, staying caffeinated, I'm able to take that route that's going to better benefit me. It's going to give me a better outlook, and it's going to help benefit everybody else around me. And so that's why I'm not drinking tonight, because of the fact that I'm not done with 75 hard.
You're sticking to it. I love that.
But yeah, dude, we've had great conversation so far.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I expected when I've been nagging Daniel for 3 months, 4 months to get on this show, just to listen to him and Steve riff back and forth. And I'll interject here and there.
Yeah. Ian says you have to learn to embrace the suck. That's absolutely true.
Yes. Yeah. Without a doubt.
Absolutely true.
But yeah. What are you looking at?
Well, I'm still
comments.
No, I'm doing that. I'm also making sure the camera's doing well, because we keep locking up on the feed. Multitasking, AJ.
Dude, I love it. I'm all for it.
Multitasking.
I guess one of the sidebar notes that we can make is, and it seems like we do this every time I end up on the podcast, maybe you do it every time on the podcast, is if you think you're going through something that you don't think people can relate to, I mean, you got 2 really, really good stories. Mine's minimal compared to what you guys have gone through, but reach out to people. People are also going through other stuff, and maybe just talking, maybe having a conversation, maybe having a smoke is going to give you that benefit and that clarity that you need to go about your day and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Kind of like you were saying too, AJ, just making sure you're being open too. Because you were talking about, like, right now your whole why is for other people like me who might be struggling. So, like, once I get through that, remember that, right? But now that's my call, is to make sure that I'm there for others as they're going through that too.
Absolutely.
I saw Nate leaning forward here.
No, I think what you guys were just talking about kind of goes back to one of the earlier episodes we had about give and take. Like, sometimes we want to give so much of ourselves that we have nothing left in our tank.
Right.
And then when we have nothing else, sometimes it's hard for us because of a pride issue. A lot of times it's hard for us to ask for help.
Oh, absolutely.
But we forget we don't realize that the people that would help us, or that sometimes we help, would be there to help us as well.
Yep.
Or that we have a group that would be willing to help us. We just have to get over that hurdle of actually admitting we need it.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that plays perfectly, and then we'll get to Dustin. I think that plays perfectly into how mine and Daniel's business relationship has developed. And, he'll call me up, hey man, I'm swamped right now. Can you make these 3 deliveries? Not a problem, because I know for a fact, if there's a day where I'm at the shop and he's doing something else, or he's prepping for his second job, that I can call him and say, hey man, I've got 4 deliveries on this side of town. Can you take this one? He's not going to bat an eye about it. And so with that being said, you got to admit when you're swamped, and you got to have that group that's going to be willing to, work with you and help you through it. Yeah, exactly.
I think, I'm going to kind of play on the devil's advocate of the other side of the coin of what Nate said too, is, your loved ones sometimes need that extra support too, where you may have to put your benefits on the back burner. And that's something that, you know, I've had to struggle with a lot recently because of, you know, a lot of the things that my fiance is going through ever since the end of January. You know, we unexpectedly, you know, she wasn't feeling good, went to the doctor, found she had a blood spot on her brain from an aneurysm. Don't know how that was caused. And then, you know, that's caused a lot of anxiety with it as well. And then, you know, a lot of other health issues that kind of go along with it. And now there's a lot of unexpected anxiety attacks that come with it. And, you know, there's a lot of things of my own that I have to put on hold that I've struggled with because, you know, I don't get a lot of those times for myself, but I know that she needs that just as much as, if not more so, than I do. And it's, to say it's a struggle is an understatement. You know, because, you know, we had that conversation before I even left for tonight. And, you know, with as much as that I work, you know, I'm not home a lot. So she doesn't have that adult interaction with someone to have those conversations with, to kind of vent to. It's, you know, her and our daughter, you know, and kids, even at 7, going on what seems like 17 a lot of times, you know, it drains you, and you need that other kind of adult interaction. And I've not been able to give that to her, even when I do come home from work, because I'm so drained from everything going on at work, which, you know, I gave you a snippet of that, of what I even went through yesterday. And
Yeah.
everything else going on at work aside from that just kind of pulls that much more energy and emotion and everything out of me, and the mentalness that I lose the capacity. Then when I come home, I don't want to focus on nothing. I don't want to talk to anybody because that's all I've done all day. But I know when I come home, like, I've got a little one around that has been asking about me all day. And, you know, I've got Kathy, who wants that adult interaction, just to have a conversation or just vent, or maybe she's anxiously waiting for me to get home because she's trying to make it through an anxiety attack that just sprung up out of nowhere, that we don't even understand why, where, when, how it came about. So it's a lot of different things that kind of play into that too. And I think it's finding a way to weather that storm, because hopefully, knock on wood, the light at the end of the tunnel is there at some point.
Yeah, definitely. I actually really like this conversation and the way it's gone. And I'm actually, in my mind, I'm able to tie it in once again back to Andy Frisella. He has a section of his podcast and he talks about your energy reserves. And similar to what Dustin and Nate were saying, you know, there's give and take, and we can even relate it and call it our caffeine reserves, in the sense that there is going to be things out there that are going to steal your caffeine, your energy reserves, and you need those other people. You need those Daniels and Steves and Dustins and Kathys and all those people, because they can also fill those back up and reassure your why, reassure your caffeine, your energy reserves, and things like that.
Yeah, I think you need to surround yourself with, it's easy to say, but the right people.
Right.
You know, Dustin, I love both you and Kath. I think that you need to have as big of a support group as you can. And and it's an effort. It's not a takeaway. Like Dustin said, struggle. It was off mic, but he says it's a struggle, and I agree with that. But it's an effort. And I, again, not knowing, you know, what she's going through in her mind, or what you're going through, but it is an effort constantly to find the people around you and get around people that you can. It is, I would say, and maybe I'm oversimplifying it, might upset people out there, but if you put all your eggs in one basket, if you put all your support on one person, it's going to fail. You're not going to succeed, because now all of a sudden you've taken another individual, another person that is going through their day-to-day life. And this, not just for you guys, this is just everyone, but it's like, if you put every ounce of struggle and negative and all this help onto one person, are they equipped for it? We're in a day and age that, I mean, this is something that causes splits. This causes fights. This causes more. It breeds a lot of this. So can you actually have we talked about that communication with Daniel, like, he didn't want to put burden on someone. There is a little bit of that floodgate control, in my opinion, that are you opening the floodgates completely when you have hit that point? And just opening that floodgate on one person standing there. I mean, this is a visual right there. If you're watching like a YouTube video of talking about this, if I was talking, you're like, this is your person, right? And this is what you're struggling with. And there's this big dam holding back this flowing water. And this one person is standing in front of it. And you're like, I'm going to like trickle it out, but I hope there's more people to help. But if there's this one person, there's this one microphone, like this is the person standing there, and all of a sudden the entire floodgate opens, that person's going to get knocked the fuck over.
Yeah.
Because they're not equipped for it.
Yeah.
So now you have, no, I mean, it's not, I'm not trying to be funny, Daniel. I'm literally saying, like, that was a visual where it's like, now it's like, okay, if you're going to open the floodgates, you're going to trickle it out there first. So you're going to talk to that, like, hey, this is what I need. This is what I'm dealing with. How can I get more people to be there to hold that water? How do I get, if I need professional help, how do I get this? And Dustin, I'm not talking about you and Kath specifically. This is something that it brings up, is because I've dealt with that as well, is that, and I know a lot of people have, is that you have to have a two-sided and hopefully multi-sided support system there, where it's, if you bring it all on just two people, you might weather the storm. You said that, weather the storm. But when a natural disaster is coming through, you're not going to weather it. And I think that's what a lot of people, you need to get the support system. You need to get more people involved if possible. And in that incident, and I'm not, you brought it into this, is hopefully you can bring more people, myself included, and everyone else, is this isn't something where it's like you overwhelm that person, because I know there's a lot of things going into it, but you get the help that you need. I know you're doing that. But sometimes the person that's getting the floodgates open on them as well
is also going through.
They need it as well. They need that support system. So now it's this like multifaceted, like who's helping who type thing.
Yeah.
And that's where, I think, Daniel, you bottled it up enough to the point where you ended up in a facility.
Yeah.
For a week, you said.
Yep.
And then you come out of it and it's like, okay, no, I see all these facets out here that are willing to support me. And I think it's a multi-layered type of
exactly, because like when I'm going through things, there's also people that might be going through maybe the precepts to having to be induced into a mental hospital, because that's how bad they're at. And yes, I'm still struggling with the day-to-day stuff, but I'm at a point now where I can still give to them, and I might need AJ or someone like that to be giving to me in the meantime as well. For me to have that energy to.
I think that's a lot of it. When I hear that, it's a lot of times what I think causes, and again, not being a lot of people might not agree with this, but it's like one of the biggest things that people, when they're struggling with depression or they're dealing with anxiety and all that stuff, one of the things that they either overcompensate with or they really struggle with, they can't be there for other people, is exactly that. They overcompensate, they neglect their own issues and they try to be there for other people, or they bottle it up and they're like, then they get frustrated, they can't be there for other people. It's very much a quicksand type of a feel. Yeah. So that's where it's like.
Yeah, and I will tell you, like,
outside factors,
the weeks leading,
people are that caffeine that we're talking about, stay caffeinated. Those
weeks leading up, we started talking about my why. I can tell you, the 3 weeks leading up to that event in October, I just felt terrible because people were coming by the shop and all I wanted them to do was leave because I didn't want to deal with them at all or anything like that. And obviously, one of the reasons I've always enjoyed being in the coffee industry was to not take on by any means other people's problems, but at least try to provide them that joy. And I wasn't able to find my inner joy first,
So, take care of yourself before you take care of other people. Yeah.
Yep. Definitely. Do we want to talk about this?
Go ahead.
Cool.
Which part?
Well, I kind of want to get Daniel's take on it. Once again, we've got some amazing conversation going on in the comments, but Robert Crow, and I'll kind of address this to you, Daniel. How do you guys ensure your pride doesn't get in the way of your business? And then he goes on to explain, sometimes when someone might be clear in mind and ready to get something done and the other isn't in the right mindset, it can cause problems or a rift, especially with someone's pride because all they want to do is succeed.
So it's like between you guys. That's what I asked him to explain it. Is that what he's asking? Is that like if you guys, the pride between the two of you?
Yeah.
Ooh,
I was gonna say it's a good question, and that's also part of the reason why I wanted to ask it, to force Daniel's hand to answer it first.
I'm glad you guys came to this therapy tonight.
Thanks for joining the Jennings Java couples quarrel session.
Anyone else?
I mean, honestly, like roll into it. If I come in and I'm jazzed up and I'm ready to go and let's do this XYZ, and you're just like, gosh, I wish AJ would have just slept in today.
Ooh,
cut off your Jennings Java.
Yeah.
Well, that's like how AJ shows up at the shop every morning anyway. So yeah. I think, I don't know. For me, the aspect of I guess my pride comes into the fact of not being lazy. I mean, that goes into all aspects of it. I think that
dude, if you want to yell at me, you can.
No, I'm just saying that sometimes that's what I need
this?
though.
We're in the trust tree.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking through this.
You
I'm
can
like,
say whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like, we're in a safe place.
But
no one's listening.
If anything,
it's just the three of us.
Us and a couple
It's
thousand.
just the two of you. I'm just sitting back.
Us and a couple thousand.
There's no
friends.
live camera. There's no people like these. These aren't people here.
I think for myself, honestly, when AJ comes in and
the floodgates I was talking about, fucking
here they are,
and he's ready to get it. If anything, I start to realize that there's something I need to address in myself first.
Right.
It's saying that maybe there's something going on, and I've learned that through our business relationship as well, that I can be open with AJ first off. Now, as we talked about many times in the past couple minutes, is that maybe the first thing I need to tell AJ is, hey, today I'm not there, but I need to get there. Give me some time to figure out what I need to do to get there. I might not be there today. Yeah, exactly. Is that because he knows in a couple days I'll be at that spot where I'm ready to get it. And that's where I need a business partner. I need a couple of different people. I need some great employees working with us as well to team up, because there are many days that I will come in and I'm not ready for the day. And I need someone else to be there as I figure out how to get ready for that spot.
Yeah, no, I think that was great.
What do you want to say, AJ?
I knew it was going to get turned to me.
We're in the trust tree.
I like it when you do that. And look, he stopped it real quick. No, I think for me, in terms of pride getting in the way, super fortunate. Daniel and I, we absolutely have our disagreements just like any other business partners, but I really can't think of a time that we've taken to like a yelling and screaming match. And I mean, just today, in terms of pride getting in the way, we were driving here. We were on our way to this, and we were talking about what the next step is, because in my eyes, in terms of what we do, the product we provide, the service we provide, we're ready for the next step. I'm ready for us to get this cafe, get it moving. We need to sign on a dotted line now because we're ready to go. And in a sense of, I guess my pride would be in the way, in the sense that I need to take a step back and realize, okay, maybe I haven't thought everything through. And Daniel does a really good job of, but what if this? Or, but I don't really see this. When, he just does a good job communicating to me that, without yelling at me, like, hey, AJ, take a step back. You haven't thought this through. There's other variables that either you don't know about or that we haven't discussed yet, or things like that. I mean, we've been, how long have we been talking about a new cafe?
A year.
Probably a year. Yeah. And so for me, especially, do you want me to read it?
Yeah.
Sidebar.
No, it's very related.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ian said, well, isn't that why you pick a partner that supports you by being stronger in the aspects that you are weak at? I mean, part of having pride is acknowledging what someone does better than you. That is spot. Thank you for bringing that up. That is spot on.
Part of my job.
That goes back to the multitasking thing.
And actually, AJ, I thought of one last thing too, going off of that too. My dad, who's one other business partner with us as well, he's been in business marketing manager for 20 plus years now. One of the things my dad has done between AJ, me and him very well is saying that our relationships as friends and family and stuff always comes before the business first. And he was about 2 years ago ready to step aside because of how arrogant I was as a business owner. I was sitting there trying to micromanage AJ's social media. I was trying to sit there and tell my dad how to do all the business planning, all the market research and stuff like that.
Passion was overflowing.
Exactly.
Right?
And honestly, arrogance too. I just thought I knew everything because I was 22 years old at the time and just got out of business school. I had a good business
That's
going
the
for
age
me.
where you know
yeah.
everything.
I knew everything. And do you know what it took?
I've met you before.
Exactly. Yep.
It
took my dad literally saying, I think it's time for me to step aside from the business because I don't want to ruin the relationship between us three.
Yeah.
And that was the humbling aspect for me where I realized, oh crap, I'm good at a couple things. I have about 3 things that I'm good at. I'm good at interacting with people. I'm good at sourcing coffee and maybe 2 things. I don't know what the one other thing is, but roasting coffee. That's it. But anyway,
caring about people.
Many times I will have my dad, who is a great role model for me, step back and say, as I'm complaining about AJ, or I'm complaining about my dad to AJ, me? All the time. And he'll remind me that
I'll back that up. Yeah.
All the pride that I have on areas that that's not my specialty, you know? And so the aspect of learning that respect the other hats that people are really good at. AJ's always been so great at respecting the fact that I bring a coffee knowledge to him. I'm not sure at the early stage of the business, since I was the one that founded, I thought I should control everything. I've learned a lot as we've grown to step back and say, you know what? That's not my specialty. When someone's talking to me, I'm like, you should talk to my business partner because that's really where he'll hit it off.
I think where the pride comes in, you know, where you're at with it as the operator, you know, your operations guy. There's this guy over here is more of that sales and marketing type thing, which is what you need, right, for the business to grow. But when they start like talking to people and all that stuff, it's very, very common that when you're doing this whole blood, sweat, and tears into it, and you're like, oh, why does everyone know AJ?
Yeah.
Why? I'm the one doing all this shit. That's what Bobby was saying. I think Bobby Crow was saying is like the pride part of it, and that aspect of it. You are in there before AJ, you're in there afterwards. You're doing all the nuts and bolts of it. You're like, if I didn't do what I did, AJ has nothing to sell.
Yeah.
So that is that.
And there's a healthy balance to that too, though.
Yeah,
exactly.
Where it's supposed to be.
Yep.
And to that point, I'm really glad you kind of rephrased this because it was one of those like aha light on moments for me. Is you can clearly see, go back into our Instagram, and when we were at that part where Daniel was micromanaging and stuff like that, you know, I was doing everything that I could. It was coffee, then me, then Daniel, then coffee, then me, then Daniel. And now, I will still post from time to time me doing stuff in the coffee shop or things like that. But you'll see, and I've noticed that, yes, it is Daniel's name. Daniel is the one roasting. This business does not exist without Daniel. Right. And I'm like, okay, I don't need to be in front of it if I'm operating it from behind. And so that's a part where my pride, I stepped aside. I was like, no one wants to see this ugly mug, but they want to see his ugly mug. And that was honestly a big step for me. And it has significantly helped out our Instagram. And I think Daniel sees it too.
So what I've seen is that you guys are the coffee guys. So now you take you're combining everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When people come out to the shop every morning and they're talking about like, oh, we love how fun you guys are and stuff like that, and go, well, that's AJ, you know, that he's the one creating that brand for us. Or if someone's talking to AJ about like, hey, this product tastes amazing, AJ's very quick to talk about like, hey, that's Daniel who's focusing on that. So we're learning where the skill sets are in the business. Yeah.
You're both ugly. Yeah.
So, exactly. Yeah.
So like, just like roll with the fact
roll with the ugliness of it.
That's why we hang out with you guys, because you make us feel better about ourselves.
I'm gonna take that as a compliment, even though I think it was an insult. That's why this is also an audio podcast.
Great faces for radio over here.
I've heard that. I get that. The voice for radio. I was like, what does that mean?
That's why we had to grow the mustache and the beard to give us something that people could look at. God. It's on our cans too. We do canned lattes now. and canned chai lattes.
I'm not sure I knew what I was doing when I got stuck with a mustache either.
Get stuck with it. You do pull off the mustache really well. Like, you rock it well. We're again, when I say day and age, when we're talking about like bigger issues,
Yeah.
we're also of a day and age that you can rock a mustache.
All right.
So you're good.
That
good.
was so. Once again, sidebar. We're literally in my backyard with
Oh,
Daniel's
Jesus.
brother, who's our digital graphic designer, and we're making the cans for these lattes. And we had this one glaring empty space. And Tim goes, "Hang on, I've got an idea." And he had already pre-done a logo basically that was just a beard and just a mustache, and it says "can buy," and it's a check box. And I said, "That's fine." And I looked over at Daniel and I said, "You realize if we put these into production, you can't shave your mustache.
And
This isn't going anywhere anytime
you
soon."
probably should, but yeah, no.
In a couple years, Steve, we're going to change it up. AJ's getting the mustache, and I'm growing a beard. So yeah.
And
So here we
AJ's
are.
divorced.
That's not, trust me, she doesn't love me for the beard.
Hey,
No one does.
do you know how much product is in this thing?
I don't want to.
Support local. There's really good.
Stay caffeinated.
Yeah. No.
Closing remarks.
Dude, closing remarks. So,
'Cause-
this is, well,
If I kept this alive, I'll be going to work in the morning. You guys are going to still be talking.
right. Well, so, okay. So, Daniel, at the end,
Oh, yeah.
you
go ahead.
have, this is Daniel's first time for anybody just joining
Okay.
us. At the end, you basically wrap everything up in a closing statement, closing remark, phrase. What did you take away from this podcast?
Do you guys
Yeah.
need coffee?
Honestly, the same thing I take away anytime I'm enjoying a cigar with any other boys or any other females or anything like that is the aspect of it's about the people, the product, coffee, bourbon, cigars, all of that is to bring a community together. And so it's fun to dive into the product and get as nerdy as we possibly can. I know that because that's my sole job as a coffee roaster, as a coffee importer, is to work with farmers to make sure we're highlighting the product so people are educated and can enjoy it more, but never lose focus of the aspect of the product is always secondary to the person.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can buy coffee from anywhere.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great coffee out there.
Okay.
Awesome. I guess my closing remarks, I'm really stuck on the caffeine. I'll call it caffeine reserves, in the fact that there's going to be times that your caffeine reserves, mental and literal, I combined two phrases there.
Go on.
There is going to be times that your caffeine reserves are way, way low and you need others to help you with that. And there's going to be some times where you've got to give your caffeine reserves or excess caffeine to those other people to help them out and get them through the day. So I would say try to take mental notes of where your personal caffeine reserves are so that you know that day whether, you know what, I can go help somebody out or I need time to myself. Keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
What you got for us, Steve?
So thank our sponsors, Tinder Box at Easton, Columbus, Ohio. Thank you for the Micallef out of Fina. That was a great smoke. If you guys are not listening to the first part, if you want to learn more about cigars, check that out. Absolutely. We talked about that and rated it. Also did the Chattanooga whiskey, the
111.
Cask strength 111. Thank you guys from Jennings Java for bringing that. Altadis USA behind us is Romeo Julieta, Monte Cristo, Upman. I'm smoking the Jose Mendez, the Hispaniola. I assume you guys are as well.
Yeah. Great smoke.
Yeah.
Definitely brought it back down. More
Real
medium
solid.
body, a little bit of spice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Altadis, for that. And then also BS Cigar Company for the gold and silver and the support and everything else. The patreon.com, you guys are amazing. We did a drawing tonight again. And it was not a local guy in Columbus, Ohio, but it was someone in Ohio. So thank you guys for the support and everything else for that contribution. It's amazing.
Last thing, just because it
Thank
is
you, Jennings Java,
part of my
JenningsJava.com.
job description.
Yeah, just go ahead, man.
Everything social media we lucked out there is at Jennings Java. obviously we want to sell you coffee, but if you gotta reach out and
You guys still have swag? I was gonna.
It's
Oh,
coming
I just
in about a
remembered,
week. Yeah, we
yeah.
have a lot of merch coming in about the next
And that
week.
red shirt
Long
I was
sleeves, some
gonna wear
short sleeves
tonight,
coming
but-
in. Yeah.
yeah, we've got long sleeves coming in, short sleeves coming in.
Shout out to Anomaly,
mugs.
our designers for that. Yeah, they killed
Anomaly
it for us. Yeah.
threads. Our mugs are made by Kiln Room. They do a great job too. But yeah, you know, obviously we want to get you guys some amazing coffee and get your literal caffeine up. But we also, you know, if you want to reach out and know more about my story or know more about Daniel's story, although I kind of head the social media, Daniel is still very well connected with the social media. So
Yeah.
just reach out to us.
I'm the creeper on the social media. That's just like, oh yeah, that happened. Yeah.
You say it like that.
Yeah.
Address it to Roastmaster Daniel.
Oof.
I never wanted to be called that, for the record.
Also, check them out if you guys are on Facebook, Bourbon BS community page. I know AJ's on there. Daniel, you on there?
I'm not on Facebook right now.
So you're not on the community.
Yeah, I've been
page,
taking
yeah.
some time away from social media. It's been excellent for me.
Just log back in.
I'll just for that, like, create one
Facebook.
Facebook. You'll be my one friend, Steve. Yeah.
That's a bad start. Stay caffeinated. My whole thing with this is that I am a big caffeine fiend. I've done this for a long, long time. You know, I was back in the days where, like, in college, it was like the thermogenics was like rip fuel, like ephedra days. Like, this is how you get better. It was absolutely a legalized way of, like, you don't do cocaine, but we got you. You're like, oh, cool. Yeah. I don't do drugs.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
That's exactly what it was. I don't do drugs, but this is legal. Cool. Yeah. My heart's gonna burst. I'm gonna do that. Stay caffeinated. It's about what drives you, and these guys really hit it on the head. And I learned a lot tonight about that. And what I learned most about you two is people. I think there's no better way of, and you have to keep it in check, because, again, I say this a lot, is that we're of this day and age, right? And you want to really help a cause, you want to help the greater good and all that stuff, and all the while you might let first of all yourself, if not the people around you, that's what suffers. The relationships around you suffer because all you're doing is that greater good. That might be your caffeine, that might be your stimulant, but you have to really start. I learned this tonight from Daniel being on the podcast, is you lose yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens.
Yep.
You put everyone else in front of you. Who's helping you? And your receptors of people trying to support you, they're off. All you're trying to do is push. You're trying to talk at people. You're trying to, like, really get your message out there of, like, this is how we get better. And you were talking about that. And, like,
Yep.
your image is like, I want to help you. I got great coffee. I got these great relationships. Let's get you going.
Yep.
Where are you at on that totem pole? The bottom.
Yep.
You're getting stomped on. You're falling into that quicksand. Man, I get tired of the fact, and I've done it before, and like I said, is open your line of communication on both sides. Is put yourself out there. Don't stop doing that. Don't stop doing that. I think you really need to focus on other people and try to inspire, but it is about through yourself that you're inspiring other people. You know, when I've struggled and I'm looking for that boost, I am that person. I put it on their social media, people I interact with. But when I'm struggling, I also expose that part of it. So there's a contradiction, right? But it will level out at one point, because there is a bit of a balance. But you have to hold yourself accountable for that. But one of the things that I did a long time ago, and we brought it up on the podcast about the whole focus thing. And AJ, you this is the first podcast you've been on that you did not actually bring that up. Is the focus aspect of that. I have Facebook memories. I have people bring it up still. I had someone today that I haven't talked to in a long time, is that they're like, what time do you wake up to go to the gym and take your new dog for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I wake up at this time, I do this. They're in a different schedule, and they're like, that's so early. But I admire your dedication that you've kept over all these years. It's not been steady. I mean, it's been steady enough that people notice, but I also know the ins and outs of it, that it's not the same as it was 5 years ago, a year ago, 6 months ago. I know where it's at right now, and I'm always like, to your point, Daniel, it's a constant struggle. But it's always trying to stay motivated. It's always trying to stay caffeinated, in a sense that I do wake up on my non-workout days. When I was really low about 4 or 5 months ago, I was drinking coffee in the morning because I wanted to like reset myself. I had to change something. I'm back to the point where I know that, sorry to you guys, I'm not buying the coffee as much.
Yeah.
But I've gotten back to like, this is what works for me with the pre-workout in the morning because of the other ingredients in it. If you guys can introduce some citrulline malate into your coffee and some BCAAs.
Now you're verging on bulletproof coffee.
We'll talk.
We'll talk. We know a guy.
But I look at it as that it's about find what works for you so that you can actually, first and foremost, make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
Because that's why you drink that cup of coffee. That's why you do the whole thing I was talking about, where it was like, full circle was you smell that coffee brewing. And if you're not brewing it at home, you're going to your guys' shop. You guys, that people are looking forward to getting in their car just so they can get to you, just so they can get to the coffee. We're talking about some things that are a little bit of addictive personalities, but there are purposes behind every aspect of it. And from a business standpoint, you can address all of those things. That's where the marketing comes in. Yeah. Right. That's where it's like you wake up first thing, you could have a fucking scratch and sniff of Jennings Java. You know what I mean? On your
little mason jar,
whatever it might be.
Oh,
candles. Dustin's candles, right? Air freshener.
Jennings Java cologne. I like
released.
that. Yeah.
5 a.m. That time release, like blade plug-in.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, we should talk to Style and Stash and Hustle Grooming about that.
So my point was, it's all about the full experience. Yeah,
the cogs are working now.
Welcome.
I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
I'm still with you, Steve.
No, I listen to you guys. I listen to you guys. That's why I put it out there. Is that this is something that I will say that it always has to start with yourself. And I heard some conversation tonight. I know my experiences. I've learned from your guys's and the audience, and I've heard some comments that you really, really have to keep your receptors open. Because when you stop, I'm of the opinion, no knowledge there, no education, but that's where the depression starts. That's where you feel like you're in it by yourself. You really have to put yourself out there in the effort that you are bringing people into, and you listen. It's you drink that cup of coffee, not because you're fucking miserable in the morning. You drink the cup of coffee because you get to see your guys, your coffee guys, or whatever Ian said, the coffee gentleman. I can't say it.
Caballeros.
But that's where you get you get the full experience. You really, every day in your life, you get the full experience. Put yourself out there, let other people impact you, and that's where you roll. That's where you go. That's where the caffeine, stay caffeinated. It's not just caffeine, it's the people, it's the experiences, it's sunny out, it's shitty out, it's snowy out. All right, snowy and gloomy. Cool.
Yep.
The snow looks pretty. Go with that.
Yep.
Right.
Stop saying you don't like winter, because no one likes winter except for when they're skiing or they're at a cabin or like everything's cool.
Yep.
But when you have to fucking shovel your driveway, no one likes it. So 365, no matter what it is, you really have to put effort in to stay caffeinated. And don't just look for that drug.
Yeah.
Because when you do, that's where it'll start
Building.
building and fall on you guys.
No.
Guys, thank you very, very much. Jennings Java, AJ, you're a part of the Bourbon and BS community page. Put it on there.
Absolutely.
Support them.
Thanks, Steve.
Guys, love
Cheers.
you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Everyone, thank you very much. Thank you for the support. Enjoy your Whiskey Wednesday. What's left of it. I think we're still in Whiskey Wednesday.
For now.
I appreciate all the support. Look forward to next week. Guys, enjoy your week.